Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Podcakes, and this one is a little unique and actually a little bit difficult to bring to you guys. You may or may not know that Papa Cakes and I were involved in a little bit of a motorcycle accident that actually totaled out both of our bikes. And honestly, it was the most violent event of my entire life. So I wanted to get everybody involved, myself and Papa Cakes. Shawn was there on site, but Critter Moto, he was actually there riding with us and actually witnessed it through his mirror of Papa Cakes tumbling and flying through the air and his motorcycle completely cartwheeling. The direct messages, the text messages, the phone calls, the well wishes has been a bit overwhelming, and I haven't been able to keep up with replying to all of these messages that have come in. So I decided the best thing to do, since I have this platform available to me, was to get a hold of Critter Moto and Shawn with ADV Oregon, and of course Papa Cakes and myself, and to sit down on a Podcakes episode and just talk about what happened. We kind of dissect the events, the aftermath, and we learn a lot of things that we just didn't know that was going on in the background, and other things that were going on with Papa Cakes and myself. And I found out I was in much worse shape than I thought I was. Friends, if you like what we're doing here on the Motorcycles and Pancakes and Podcakes, head over to Patreon. Please take a moment to consider becoming a Patreon member. Just head on over to Patreon, / that thing, put Motorcycles and Pancakes, there's our page. It's less than a cup of coffee a month, and it just goes right back into investing into everything that we are doing to bring the content to you, the listener, and I am forever grateful for all of you that are Patreons. In fact, you'll see your name at the end of this video and every video. So friends, without further ado, here's the crash debrief.
Yeah, red light. I'm stressed out now. I'm camera shy.
Camera shy. Well, I think what we're gonna do is we'll just start it with that right there, Mr. Critter. You're just frozen. So anyways, we'll start this thing right meow. Just wanted to thank everybody for getting our schedules together to come together, and yeah, I just said together quite a bit right there. But wanted to thank you guys for coming in and getting together here tonight and just talking about kind of a screwed up situation, that kind of happened. We kind of the purpose behind this whole deal here is the day it happened. So the day the accident happened, I think it was kind of a bit of a shell shock moment. And within the next probably 48 hours, 72 hours, I was bombarded with DMs, text messages, a few phone calls, and I didn't really want to talk about it. It wasn't that it was too soon. It was, we're in the midst of insurance, and I wanted to make sure before we actually sat down and talked about this in depth, that whole insurance thing was done, right? So now it's done. T's are crossed, I's are dotted, and we can actually officially talk about the situation and the juggernaut that it definitely became. So, uh, so as you can see on here, we've got Shawn, ADV Oregon. We've got my dad, Ron, Papa Cakes, and then myself. And then all the way up 430 miles away north of here, we have Critter Moto from the Critter Den. I guess we'll just bring it back a few days before. Critter, you came down for your video. Well, I guess not really for your video, but you just came down for the trip for your Oregon adventure this year. And actually, I
Yeah, my
said video
annual.
because I think when your video came out, your part 2 is not quite out yet on the
No,
YouTube.
part two's not out yet. No.
But I know that the people on your Patreon saw part 2, and yeah, good video.
Go subscribe.
Yeah. And I started getting a few phone calls or text messages rather off of your video. And then also
Right.
the Adventure Cooperative
they said something about it in their video, and then it's just become a thing. Like, hey, I didn't know what's going on. Are you guys okay? And I
Yep.
figure, well,
Yeah.
instead of trying to text or DM everybody back, we'll do it this way. So, Critter, you came down, and we had a pretty kind of rad couple days.
It was rad. First off, we just want to it's great that Ron is here. Everybody, Ron is healthy, right? So, yes.
That's okay with me.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, annual trip to Oregon, always for the giant loop ride. I head down to Oregon every year, have done for the last 4 years. And like you said, the three of us started off with a really cool, I mean, the year previous, we did the Barlow Trail, portions of the Barlow Trail. This year was something different. And, we started following the Oregon Trail and down into Sumter and seeing the old mining dredges and stuff. It was pretty epic. It was pretty wild. So
We kind of had a nice
and then what?
campsite one night.
Oh yeah, that
actually both nights were
that
nice.
yeah. The state park outside of Sumter was nice, but
At
the
Phillips Lake.
Oh, is that what it was? Phillips
Yeah.
Lake?
Mhm.
Okay, I didn't catch the name of the lake, so now I know. But that riverside campsite that we found was phenomenal.
It really was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
if you've been on any of the socials, we've all talked, Critter and I have talked about it. Thought it was kind of funny because if you're not familiar with Eastern Oregon riding, they have the talcum powder that's on top. And then when you get a little bit of rain in it and a little bit of gravel under it, it turns into this like super slick yet super sticky. It doesn't matter what kind of tires you have, it's going to build up, it's going to fill up your tires, and you can't really clean them out all that good. And it's kind of riding on ice. And then if you have low fenders, you're going to have some issues and it's going to turn into cement, blah, 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 blah. Right. So we started running into that because we wanted to go around this reservoir, and we were like Critter, you were throwing stuff up. I mean, I was a little bit behind you, and it was like 50 feet in the air going over my head. You know,
Well, me not being used to it, I was hearing it come up like under the front fender. But to me, it sounded like raindrops on my head. But I'm like, I'm not getting rained on. What is that noise? And as soon as I'm realizing that I'm hearing this odd noise, I hear you on the comms. That's the nice thing. Nice and bad, but we'll get to the bad part later. But nice that we're all on comms because you're like, yeah, Critter, it's you're throwing stuff. And I'm like, whoa. And then we stopped and I put my foot down. It's like, whoop. Yeah, okay, we better get going.
yeah, that was kind of the consensus too. And then we had Papa Cakes a little bit on there, like, hey, we're turning around kind of deal, giving that fatherly thing. And we did. We all
so glad we did.
Yeah, we all agreed at some point, like, yeah, dude, we need to turn around.
Oh, yeah.
And we went back. Papa Cakes was pushing for another park along the river that he remembered from the year before. And I remember stopping on the bridge. And we were all talking about that. And I remember like, I'm gonna go ride this road. I just want to see where that goes real quick. It looks pretty cool down there. And I remember getting down there being like, yep.
Yep.
Saying something on the comms like, yeah, guys, come on. This is it. Found home for the night. And it was epic.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell anybody where it is. A few people know, but we're going to keep that a secret.
Yeah, there's one person in particular, Crashimoto, and he crashed there, literally. So
yeah,
he knew where it was. Yeah, it's in the name. Yeah,
that's right. Crashy, if you're listening to this, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, there are a few people that know where it's at, but yeah, what an epic spot, man.
Yeah, definitely. So we had that great night. We woke up and we just kind of easily rode down the gravel road. Had a little bit of a high rate of fuel consumption for a little bit. And then we ended up going to Crane to the cafe at the gas station there.
Oh, God.
Having some interesting pancakes or breakfast by this Canadian guy. So if you don't know, I did a story on my Instagram. You can still go find it now. It's saved under, all the stories there. But Critter orders pancakes, bacon, hash browns, and eggs over easy.
And that's right. Yep, eggs over easy.
He stuffed everything except the eggs in between the two pancakes. Threw the eggs on the top, put a bunch of syrup on it, and just was like, "That's how we do it at home, eh?"
That's right. Save time. Get it all in there at once.
I was so confused and so impressed all at the same time. I don't even know what to say about that.
Well, I've never seen hash browns piled on pancakes before.
Right?
Low carb, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, low carb.
That
Sure,
was
why
pretty
not?
good food, actually.
It was.
That little Crane Cafe.
It was. And then we had a great day. We just we pulled into GL on
Yep.
what was that, Wednesday, and got our camp made up, and yeah, dude, we hung out, and then that was the day we went up to was it King's Lookout?
Yeah.
King Mountain.
Yeah,
Mountain
the King
Lookout.
Mountain
Yeah.
Lookout. Yeah,
Mhm.
we had gotten there so early, and
Mhm.
a camp was set up so fast. You know, we still had 3/4 of the day to go, so
Yeah.
away we went.
I
That
think
was
by
an
the
awesome day of riding too.
yeah, I think by the time we got breakfast, topped off fuel, and jetted back to GL and got set up, it was like what, 10? Maybe
I'm gonna
10:30.
say probably 10. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it was
pretty
still
close to
early.
that.
That's still the time,
Yeah,
Sean's still in the rack. He's not even out of bed yet.
First cup
that's
of coffee.
right.
But that was great. And then Blackhawk Hockey won an announcement. And we'll let you talk
Oh,
about
yep,
that.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, we did. So up here, up island, a fella, member of the black belt member of the dojo that my daughter goes to, was in a pretty serious motorcycle accident, and ended up losing his leg and some pretty life threatening injuries. But he's out of the hospital fine now. But what we did is I took it upon myself to raffle off an admission to Get Lost Find Yourself, which, as you know, has been sold out since day one.
Right.
And all in efforts to raise money for him, right, for Kalen. And we ended up raising $860, which was really great, just off one simple story on Instagram. The motorcycle community rallied, and $860 later, and then Ian and I did the live giveaway up on the King Mountain Lookout, and Blackhawk Hockey won it. So my first time ever going live on Instagram, so that was kind of weird. And then I don't know if you remember, Ian, but we're like, yeah, congratulations, Blackhawk. Okay, how do you end this thing? And as soon as I press end, Blackhawk comes on. I'm like, oh crap, he's there. So we had to jump back on. Hey, how's it going? But yeah, no, we did that. That was great. And congratulations to him. He'll be up there in September.
Absolutely.
But what's even more cooler?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Well, equally cool, more cool. It was cool. It was
Yeah.
pretty freaking epic, because we're up there doing the giveaway, and we're sitting there and we're talking, and Ian and I are like enjoying the view. And we're like, oh, that was great. Oh, so glad he won it, man. And then I hear this motorcycle behind me, because we're on top of the lookout. And I turn around, and there's this guy, Papa Cakes, just cruising along. Ian and I, our jaws dropped, because we're like, it's pretty tough. It's rutted. Maybe you should stay back. We're telling him to stay back, wait for us and stuff. Nope. Stubborn old guy. He comes right on up. Hey, boys, how you doing?
I know. Like,
but
it was
impressive.
It was. Yeah, you gave the full extension point, and I was like, "What? Holy hell!"
That whole afternoon was just beautiful ride, and the view up there was unbelievable. You could see forever. So
yeah,
it was great getting up there.
Yeah, it was pretty rad.
Yeah, and super impressed that you got up there. It was awesome.
Yeah, and then he bailed a little bit early. And we were taking some pictures, and you were doing some YouTubing. And he takes off, and then he even beat us all the way down to the corner, back down to the main road.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I kept like, he's got to be around this corner. He's got to be around this corner. He's got to be around this corner.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Yeah,
funny.
I was thinking the same thing. It's like, where is he? Where is he? Did we pass him someplace?
Then we took that other turn, and we went down that other road, and I was like, nope.
Nope.
Yeah.
A little dicey.
Yeah. I think it was very doable for us, but having Papa Cakes on there and trying to keep things on a scale of 1 to 11, keep them around like a 5 or a 6. That was about an 8, maybe a 9. So
and plus we're going super steep downhill, and you could look down this canyon and look like, oh, this will, probably about 20 miles of this. It was like, I don't think so.
But still turned out to be an epic ride coming back.
Oh yeah, it was
just coming down. We hooked up a really nice section of Highway 395, just twisty turning right through the canyon there until it got into the valley. Super nice.
Yeah.
So then we got back that night, and I think we walked down and we talked to Soils Man for like an hour straight, you know?
Yeah.
Sleeping with Pete. And if you ever know anything about Pete, he's always got beer.
What a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, super great
Yeah.
guy.
End of
He's awesome.
story.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
beers and stories.
Yep.
That's him for days. It's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember I slept okay that night, you know. A couple things kept me up, but it was still like a decent night, you know.
Yeah, 27 degrees.
Yeah, it was. That's right. It was chilly. Critter came into the tent, wanted to cuddle. He's like, "I'm cold, Pop. I'm cold." And I'm just like, "Come here, big guy. I got you." He was the little spoon that night.
Ah.
Critter, why are you turning red?
Yep. Yep. Everyone
Anyways.
counting around us.
Yeah.
No, never mind.
So, anyways, so we got up the next morning. We kind of had a leisurely deal.
I need to say one more thing about
Yeah.
that 27 degrees. Somebody we know sitting on the other side of the table here, sitting inside the trailer with a fireplace and warm and cozy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Giving us a hard time, you know, about it. He said, I wasn't cold at all.
That's right.
Showing up at your camp the next morning, and Chris says, "Oh man, it was 27 degrees this morning." I said, "I think we got down to about 67 last night."
Yeah, thanks for that.
Okay.
Just rubbing it in
Yeah.
our face. We're all out there cold. I remember that night I woke up and I actually had to grab my my Revit jacket and throw it over me. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
a little cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should've went
The
in,
seats on the motorcycles were frozen.
Oh yeah, the whole
next
thing
morning.
was.
Like, there
I got
frost
up.
everywhere. Yeah.
I got up pretty early that morning, did some dronage, and I remember the AtAt was completely frozen. Everything about it, and then I was actually kind of worried about the batteries on the drone. I was like, I just
Right.
watched a video on cold weather and these batteries.
Yeah.
That's all right. Anyway, so was that the morning we did some electrical work on Lucy, or was that the day before?
I can't remember if we did electrical work on Lucy after we got back from King Mountain or the next morning. It was one or the other. I think it was the morning.
I don't remember.
The next morning.
But
Yeah.
anyways, we did
I'm gonna
about
say
an hour.
it was the next morning. Yeah.
About an hour or so. I'll diagnose this
Basically stripped out a whole electrical harness and just did a rewire.
Yeah.
Ian did an awesome job.
It was fun, actually, in a weird way.
Yeah.
So then we decided that day we were going to ride Stinkwater. And we're going to go up there and kind of do a little bit of riding and then just kind of figure out the rest of the day. I think for us, we had a wedding. My oldest son was getting married that day, or actually 2 days from there on Saturday. So regardless of anything, we were going to leave either that afternoon or early the next morning. And I think we were kind of leaning towards going home on Thursday afternoon because of the cold weather.
Because of the cold. Again. Yeah, I remember you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, because we would have had to leave super like 5, 6 in the morning, to get back. So we kind of had the route all figured out. And I guess I'll just go first, and then we can all throw in our deal. So we were geared up, ready to go. And we take off from our camp spot. We ride through the giant loop, like, what do they call it? Vendor row. And just cruising through there and just checking everything out, just riding slow through there. Papa Cakes was in the front. I was the second. And then Critter, you were in the back. And then at some point, I don't know what you were doing, Critter, but you fell a little bit behind and we had a pickup truck pulling a little trailer that got in between us. So we get out to the highway 20. We were going to make a left because we needed to go to Crane to get fuel. That was the whole purpose of us leaving and kind of heading that way. Like, okay, well, it's Stinkwater. Is it Stinkwater or Stinky Water?
I think it's Stink.
I do too, but I don't know. So anyways, that trail. So we made the left and we're going to head down to Crane, get some motion lotion in the tanks, some go-go juice. And so we had the pickup in between Critter and I. So my dad takes off, makes a left. He's taking off. I take off really slow, like 10 miles an hour, maybe. And I remember I had my left hand out and I was just kind of doing this, like a circular motion. And I was like, come on, Critter, come on, Critter, we're all in the comms. And the guy in the pickup knew what we were doing. Like, we're all together. I'm going slow. Critter's going to come around on the left, and we're all just going to get grouped back up, and we're going to take off, do our thing. So we take off, and I'm grabbing a couple gears. And I remember I looked down for a half a second to just look at my speed, and it said 37 miles an hour. I specifically remember the 37 miles an hour part. And when I look up, darkness. I don't know what it was. There was something there. I was in an impact, and it was coming on my left side. And I remember like throwing my elbow up to kind of protect myself. Like something's here, like my reaction was coming up. But the more I've thought about this, from impact to side of the road, I think I was out, like blacked out. I don't think I was knocked out, but I don't remember anything from there. And if you know anything about Highway 20, it goes off to gravel and then it drops down at what, 45-degree angle ish, and what, 4 feet, 3 feet down
Easily.
And then it goes into just kind of a sandy loam kind of dirt on the side of the road. So I had this big impact. I don't remember anything until I was on the side of the road. I already went down the embankment and I was heading due east at this point. But what I do remember is I was looking at the road and I was like, I got this. I specifically remember thinking to myself, I got this. My eyes are up on the road and I'm going to get back up on the road. Because at this point, I don't really know what happened. I thought I had a really easy tip over in the sand over there. Because what ended up happening is I'm under the impression I threw some throttle because it looked like the back end dug. And as soon as I gave it throttle, the front end buried, which made zero sense to me. But I got thrown off the bike. And at this point, like I just, my mind is an easy tip over. Like just kind of tipped over and I'm laying on the ground and I just got up right away. I have no idea what happened. What I remember is I'm doing the circle thing for Critter. I'm like, come on, Critter, come on, Critter. And I heard you take off. I heard you say something like coming by you or coming on your left or something to Papa Cakes. I remember that. I remember the 37 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden chaos is going on. So you're going by, and so we're going to have big boy words here. So if you're offended by those, just turn it down. I remember getting up and looking on the road and seeing a white helmet laying in the middle of the road. And I specifically remember go, what the fuck, Critter? Like, Critter, are you okay? Because I thought initially Critter blew a tire when he was coming by me and came into me. That was my initial reaction. I walked, I don't know how far Dad was laying in the ground, in the middle of the road away from me, but it took me walking away from my bike, walking up the embankment, still seeing the white helmet, thinking it's Critter, before I realized it was Papa Cakes. And at that point, I went, holy shit, my dad's dead. Like, I thought Dad was dead, period. Wasn't moving, middle of the road, chaos, right? So then I'm still talking. I walk over to him, and he is obviously alive because he's right there, right? But he had a cut on his head, and so there was a lot of blood. There's blood on the ground. So at this point, I'm like, this isn't good. I'm asking him, for whatever reason, what happened? Like, he's knows what's going on, right? But I think in that moment, you're wanting answers. Like, you're trying to find a way for something to be, to make sense of chaos that just happened, right? So he's laying there, and I remember he had this look that he gave me that was like this dazed and confused, like, I'm here, but I'm not here look. Like, blank. Completely blank. And at this point, the guy in that pickup truck happened to be, I don't know, a former EMT. So he was doing an assessment already, and we're trying to figure this out. You're actually having a conversation and you're answering some questions and stuff. And I'm like, okay, and it's easing me a little bit, right? So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Trader, I don't know when you came back and when you started walking around and were there. I'm sure you and I had conversation at some point. I don't really remember until the paramedics were already there. And then you and I had a brief. I don't even remember what's said, but like I remember that was the first time I was like, okay, Crater's here. Right. Like my buddy's here.
Yeah.
And at some point, again, it was pretty quick. Shawn, I called you.
Well, yeah, the timing's interesting to me, you saying that, because I was there before the paramedics got there by quite a bit. And so
Mhm.
that you don't remember Chris or me showing
I remember
up.
you showing up. I
Yes.
do remember you showing up. I don't remember Chris until really the paramedics were there. I remember I did call you. I remember that. And I was like, and then there's that call home, right? There's been a wreck, I do remember. I don't really remember much of that conversation because, you're in this like, holy shit moment.
The one with me.
I remember calling you, but I don't remember the conversation. I know that I called you just because I was looking at the bikes and I'm like, oh, we just got to get these back to like Giant Loop.
Yeah, that was your conversation to me on the phone. Was very clearly you were just, we've got some bike issues and maybe we'll need to borrow your trailer. It was very kind of nonchalant. There's been an accident, and when I showed up, it was very obvious that wasn't the case. That it was a little more severe than that.
Right.
But I think you were clearly in shock. My first assessment was you were in shock equally as much as Ron was. Ron might have had some blood, but mentally, in fact, I almost thought you were in worse shape.
So I was weirder than usual.
Yeah. Well, you weren't weird.
Oh.
No. No.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
we're just trying to reason it.
Okay.
You were so focused on understanding what happened, and you couldn't find that answer.
No, I remember that. I remember trying to get an answer, and nothing made sense to me.
But in your head, it had to. Like you're other than the health of your dad, and your next priority was, I need to know what happened.
Yeah.
In your brain, you could see you striving for that answer. That was not going to happen.
Well, I remember when the police showed up, and honestly, I might be completely wrong on this moment or on the time frame here, but I remember it seems like multiple police showed up very quickly.
Yeah,
for being in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so the first trooper showed up, I mean, within maybe 2 minutes of my arrival. So I blocked the road. I came in behind and literally just left my truck up in the middle of the highway, and far enough back that if somebody blew through it, they probably still wouldn't get to us. But then the trooper pulled up to me, and so I kind of briefed him on who was who, and also you need to direct traffic. Where do you want me?
Right.
So he basically said, get your truck off to the side of the road. I'll block traffic. And then the next trooper that actually arrived with the two AtAt sign trucks. I think Billy and Jimmy were sitting at the shop in Burns drinking a cup of coffee, just waiting for the next call, because the sign trucks that I didn't even know they had out in that part of Oregon showed up with the second trooper. And then the third trooper was quite a bit later. His specialty was accident reconstruction.
Yeah.
So that's why he showed up.
Was that the guy in the pickup?
No.
Okay.
He was in a silver Charger or Challenger, something like that.
I remember
Charger, unmarked, I think. And he's the one who I think nearly hit two other people en route. I don't know if you know that story.
I do not.
Yeah, so he ran a motor. He was passing a car on that long stretch between Burns and Giant Loop, and inadvertently he passed at probably, my guess is he was probably doing 100 to 120, and there was a motorcyclist in the oncoming lane, and he ran that guy off onto the dirt.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
That guy, and we've had discussions about this.
You ran into the motorcycle guy?
I've, like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
See, you're fine now. You're just weird.
He didn't go down, did he?
No. It was kind of like he went to the shoulder and stirred up some dust and then came back on. But then I think JJ also saw that guy when JJ was in his pickup. He was just headed to Burns to buy some supplies. And like I say, there's multiple people that saw this particular cop coming because of how he was arriving, how aggressively he was driving.
Holy heck. Okay.
Wow.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
Poor guy. But yeah, I remember. So I remember you getting there, and we'll probably get to a little bit more after, and some things that you did. I want to say thank you to, but I just remember the paramedics got there, and I do remember. I don't know. It must have been the first officer on scene started taking an assessment. I do specifically remember him saying that he was canceling life flight and was already in the air.
Right.
They were saying life flight was
standby. It never got airborne, is my understanding.
I thought it was already airborne.
My understanding is it was on standby waiting for the call. Like in other words, they mobilized the crew. You need to launch in 5-10 minutes for an accident, but they were able to call them off. But,
okay. Well, I'm going to go with your story rather than mine because I was a little doo-doo.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Well, and I think that's because the original 911 call from the couple with the trailer, you were still unconscious, is what I gathered.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously, there 2-3 minutes later, but
right. So, Papa Cakes, let's get your take on this.
Well, I'm really interested in hearing how this all started. I have no idea, and I've heard that myself and my bike were both cartwheeling in the air and hitting the pavement and all of this. Of course, my climb gear and my helmet can attest for that because they're destroyed.
Yeah, we'll get into that climb gear here in a little bit too. That's a great story.
I'm real curious. Like, I didn't regain consciousness or awareness of anything around me, visually or audible sounds or anything. I was out, blacked out from the second I got kissed by AtAt, and I have no idea what happened, who did what. So I'm really interested in hearing all this preliminary stuff. So I guess one of my questions was, who saw me cartwheeling?
Well, before we get there, what was your first memory that came back to you?
I was being talked to by the paramedics.
And so
it wasn't even the gal. Okay.
So that tells me that we're 27 miles away from Burns, and it took them a while to get there.
35 to 40 minutes.
40 minutes?
I would say 27 miles away. Get the call, get mobilized in a few minutes, get there. Say it's 30 minutes after the accident. So I would say an easy 30 to 35 minutes you don't remember.
Holy crap.
Yeah, the timeline for me is pretty compressed. I would have guessed, and I think I was more than you two. I mean, Chris and I were probably more aware. My guess would have been 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
Because I think those guys, just like the cops, I think they're doing 85 and 90. Okay. So 27 miles at 90 miles an hour. And if they were right at that hospital where you were treated, they would have been ready to go.
Well, they were walking down the hall when we picked them up.
Yeah. But I guess I was pretty impressed by the arrival, given where we were in really the middle of nowhere. The arrival times for all of the treatment, from law enforcement to the sign trucks to the paramedics, was extremely impressive.
Yeah,
and it sounds like we had most of the professional police and everybody else in the area.
Yeah, you had
Harnett County.
Anyhow, so what I was curious about, since I'd kind of like to hear more before I woke up, before the medics are working with me. I've heard that I was out in the street and they drug me off, and I was cartwheeling and everything. So did you see any of this, Chris? or you just heard it?
Yeah. No. So, boy, did I see it, and I saw it for many days after, to tell you the truth. But yeah, so we'll start off with leaving Giant Loop, and that truck and the little truck with his little trailer did get in between us. I had slowed down to, I don't know, be social and goofy to someone in Vendor Road. I don't know. I was waving at somebody,
You?
whatever.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, the
Oh,
guy in the truck realized that he had split us up as we were coming down the hill towards the road, and he realized, oh, I split you guys up, and I couldn't go around him to catch up with you guys because some other guys were coming up, and it was just not the right time, right? So when you took off and then Ian took off, and Ian's going, come on, Critter, come on, Critter. He already knew exactly what I was going to be doing and passing him on his left because he was very slow to come out as well. So I went out, and then I just tried to catch up to you guys. And well, I didn't need to catch up to you guys. You guys weren't very far, but the little 250 came up. And as I came past Ian and you guys, I'm like, I'm on your left. And I went through. And then as I went through and then came back into my into our lane, the right hand lane, I look in my right rearview mirror as I come over to make sure I'm far enough ahead of you guys, and you're way back there. And I look back, and your feet are in the air, and your bike's rear tire is in the air, and I'm like, I was dumbfounded. I'm looking at this, and it looks so surreal to me. And I'm watching, and you did a flip, and then I'm just, whoa. And at the same time that that's happening, in my ears, I'm hearing Ian going, fuck, whoa, critter, whoa, fuck, critter, you okay, man? I'm listening to him fight the AtAt through the dirt. So I'm hearing Ian do his thing, and you're not making a noise. I'm not hearing anything from you, but you're doing this, and I'm like, oh, fuck. So I pull over right away, and I'm like, oh, shit, man. You're going to have to edit a lot of this language out, but big boy words. But I'm like, oh, fuck, no way. I'm like, there's no fucking way this is happening. And then as I'm turning around, I hear, Critter, you okay? And I'm like, it's your dad, man. Fuck, it's your dad. And then I turn around, and I come onto the opposite traffic now, and I'm off on the side, and I'm just standing there, well, straddling the bike, not moving, because I am just filled with panic, because you were just laying there, just motionless, laying there, not even moving. And I went, fuck, I think you're dead. And I just about puked in my helmet. I just like the thought and everything is just like, I can't deal with this. And then I rolled up and got my bike up to there, pulled my bike in behind, put it off to the shoulder. And that's when I came up. And at that time, the fella in the truck, thankfully for him being a retired EMT or off-duty EMT, whatever he was, him and his daughter were on it like that, and they had you already assessed, and you were sitting on the side of the road, and they were just trying to take care of you. No, you were still in the road when I rolled up, and then he said, look, we better get him off the road. We have to get him off to the side. It would make me feel so much better, so much safer if we get him off the lane of the traffic. So you were in the middle of the road for I'm going to say maybe 5 minutes or so after I'd gotten up. And the very first thing I did when I got up is I ran up to see everything was fine. His daughter looks at me and says, is there anybody there? Are there medics there? Are there medics at the event? Medics at the event? And I went, yeah, the adventure medics should be there. She says, I've already called 911. I said, okay, I'm going to go. So as I was in the point of going, I'm overhearing him saying, I'd feel much better if we got you off the road. So I jump on my bike. I zip back to Giant Loop real quick. I find Giant Loop Ryan, and I'm like, Ryan, where's Adventure Medics, man? We just had an accident. Like, Papa Cakes is down, man. We need the Adventure Medics. And he's like, oh, they're not here till like this afternoon. They're not even on duty till this afternoon. Oh, wow. I'm like, well, is there any doctors here or anything? And he says, no, like, I don't know. Well, and I said, well, can you call? Someone's got to call 911. And then I ran back to make sure that everything was okay, because at that point in time, it was just the daughter and the dad. basically capable of doing anything. And Ian, at that time when I came back, had come up, and Ian was very much, I agree with Shawn, very much shocked, like he super state of shock. And he was more like, what happened? How'd this happen? I need to do this. I need to do this. And I need to do this. And it was just his focus. Bam, bam, bam. That's my dad. I need to do this. And I need to get the bikes out. And I need to do this. And it was just all he could do. It's just like, he was sort of like in a loop. And when I got there with you, the girl, the daughter of the EMT, she was visibly shaken. She said she was one that was telling me that you did about 8 somersaults, and your bike did about 8 somersaults. Yeah, your bike did about 8 somersaults down the road. Wow. Your bike ended up 200 feet away from the accident, because it just bounced off the tires, bounce, and away it went. And yeah, it was a good 20 to 30 minutes. It's funny that you don't remember any of that, because it was a good 20 to 30 minutes before EMT got there. And the whole time, the fella in the pickup truck kept on with the same questions to you. Do you know your name? Do you know what day it is? Do you know where you are? And
was I answering those?
You were saying, yeah, my name's Ron. Yeah, I'm at Giant Loop. And then you'd go, what happened?
Yeah.
And then another set of questions. And then Ron, Giant Loop, what happened?
Yeah. You
just kept asking, what happened? What happened? And after what happened, either the EMT, myself, or the girl would say you were just in a motorcycle accident. And then another couple of questions would come, and it's like, what happened? So like, you weren't retaining any new information. So it's interesting. You blacked out for that whole time, even though you were there, but you weren't there. You were obviously like seriously concussed. Obviously, like I had not seen anyone that concussed before. And the EMT guy, the guy in the pickup truck, was very, very, very concerned, as was I, and the daughter as well. I felt pretty useless. I didn't really know what to do. I let the EMT guy run the show because he knew what he was doing. So I sort of deferred to experience. Okay, anything I can do. And then Ian had made the call to Shawn, and Shawn had showed up. And then Shawn and I were talking about it, and Shawn was concerned about making sure we got Ian some water, taking care of Ian, because Shawn could see how in shock Ian was as well. Ian and I had a conversation when I got back, and that's when Ian had said, I thought I hit you. I thought you were on the road. And I was like, no, I'm good. And I asked him, how are you? And he says, oh, I'm fine. And then, I asked him again how you were, and he goes, well, I got a little pain in my jaw. I think maybe my rib, maybe I hit something when I was going down. And, but I got to get my bike out of here. So you were kind of concerned about getting the bike up and getting it going. And I kept saying, no, the bikes are write-off, man. Both bikes are toast. They're gone. Both bikes are write-offs. And it took a while for that to sink in. I don't know if it fully sunk in, or I noticed that it sunk in until the bikes were actually up on the flat deck on the tow truck. Because at one point, Ian and I even walked over to take a look at the bike, and you were still thinking that you could just ride her home, right? Take her home type thing. But yeah, it was not a fun sight to see. And yeah, and to hear. I hope you guys didn't hear that, but and also to hear the audio commentary of the events happening and unfolding. And like I said, like I witnessed it for days after. I didn't ride the next day at all. I was getting tires, and I probably could have ridden the next day, but I didn't want to. Then on the third day, when I did finally ride, every time I looked into my right rearview mirror, all I saw was you up in the air. And that stuck with me right until I got home about 4 or 5 days later. Right. So yeah, it was surreal. It was something you would expect to see in Mission Impossible or something like that. It was so unbelievably just way out there. Like just you were up in the air. Like I could not freaking believe it. And then to turn around and to see you motionless, just laying there. Yeah, that was the worst. That was absolutely, that was horrible. That was tough.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I have my own experiences, but I hadn't really heard any of this initial stuff that
Mm-hmm.
like what really led up to when I woke up, So I guess that takes it back to me, doesn't it? So um I had my experience was literally like blinking your eyes and opening them again, or turning a light switch on and off. So you passed me on the left, and you were going at a pretty good clip. So I normal pace. So you went by me, and I went, okay, turn the throttle, to get up to your speed. And I blinked my eyes, and I woke up, and I opened my eyes, and I'm sitting on the side of the road with a bunch of people around me. So I'm thinking a couple of minutes or whatever. And then what I'm hearing from everyone is I was out for 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, 20, 30 minutes
Mhm.
probably easily.
So
Easily.
I
Yeah.
have zero recollection of anything. Even when we first contacted, you would think that I would, feel like, whoa, I'm losing my balance or whatever. I have absolutely zero memory of anything until I woke up and looked around with all these people and like, what's going on here? What the hell?
Yeah.
And it was just the most bizarre thing. And so um I I what's the whole thing is really weird, but the thing that is absolutely astonishing and a miracle, whatever you want to call it, here's this old guy going down the road, and then all of a sudden he's cartwheeling and hitting the pavement, and he gets up without a bruise or a pain, nothing. The
Mm-hmm.
the elbow on my, my armored elbow on my climb jacket was basically ground down to nothing. I didn't have a mark on my elbow. It wasn't sore. Then finally I'm standing up looking around like, okay, what are we going to do here? And then they wanted to take me into Burns to the hospital to be checked out. And I'm standing around thinking, well, I don't have nothing. I feel totally fine. Why do I need to do that?
Yeah.
And then my brother was in a really terrible accident a year prior or whatever. And he refused to go to the hospital. And he's really paying the price now because he was in a fatal head on collision. And his body was between the airbags and the car was just totally pounded, but no obvious breaks or things. But he's
Right.
really struggling with he hasn't recovered yet. So at first I said, no, I don't need to go. And then I thought to myself, don't pull a Rick, go to the hospital. So I got in, hopped in, and wonderful EMTs. They did everything they need to do, and they drew blood and everything on the way into the hospital. But I was feeling totally fine.
Yeah.
I still can't even believe it. It's like, how could that happen? And so I don't know, you want me just to continue on with that, or?
Well, I think Shawn and I both have something maybe to add real quick. Shawn just lifted his hands up, but I remember you were like, I'm not going to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
That was your first initial
Yeah.
reaction. And I was like,
Yeah.
the hell you're not.
Yeah,
I told
he
you
was
this, you're
he
going.
was pretty
You're
adamant
going.
on that.
Yeah, he was. And I that's one thing I do remember is like, yeah, you're going.
yeah.
Yeah, you're going to
I
go.
think we were all you weren't going to win that argument.
No.
Yeah, well,
No.
I came to my senses too.
Yeah, that's good that you did that. Yeah, that was like I said, that was crazy. And the more that like Critter, like your side, I didn't get all of that.
I didn't either.
And then hearing this, I think I was a little more loopy than I thought.
Oh yeah.
Because I just remember
Oh yeah.
just have to make phone calls. I got to call the insurance. I got to do this. Like that's all I remember. And I remember I was freezing.
Yeah.
It was like 20 degrees outside, but it was like 80.
Yeah, and that's I think from my sticking on the timeline of the conversation, that when I rolled up, they were treating you on the side, and so I wasn't going to interrupt that.
Were the medics already there?
No, just
Okay.
the guy in the pickup and his
Okay.
daughter. But being a former EMT, then okay, I'm going to the next person, which was you, and you're the one who called me. And then in talking with Chris, just trying to assess the overall situation, the safety of the situation, blocking traffic, those sorts of things, rather than all of us rushing to you at that point. You were being handled. Okay, there's other things that need to be handled. And but I was very concerned with your questions, your priorities, and your priorities weren't in line with what I thought they should be. And so that's when I started recognizing, okay, that was my role. Everybody's kind of got a role in one of these incidents. Somebody may be treating you, somebody may be treating Chris, and so my goal was then at that point to just kind of keep you focused on what at least me as the outsider thought your focus should stay on. Number one, I knew Dad's health. Number two, you needed to be in Portland for a wedding, and the rest of these little monetary things in the ditches were not as important as you thought they were at this moment.
Right.
And that was my perspective. I remember pretty much insisting the flat deck tow truck needed to be called. Where you were focused on, could we just grab a trailer and throw them in and take them home and do a little fixie fix? And I'm like, kind of like with Chris, just let your insurance pay for the tow truck. This is far beyond just let's drive to Portland and grab a trailer. And you, I completely remember it, and I had forgotten about it with what Chris said about I overheard you numerous times. What happened? And I definitely remembered that. And kind of, I may be over talking to you, but I overheard you in the distance asking that. And then 2-3 minutes later, asking it again. But that's when I started getting concerned with you, because I was standing there in a t-shirt and jeans, drinking my morning coffee. Literally, I had my coffee cup with me, and Starbucks. But you were talking about, well, I think Chris was near me, and I said, Ian, why don't you get your riding gear off? Because you were packed in with your chest protector and all that stuff.
I had
and
all
I'm
the gear on.
literally standing there in jeans and a t-shirt, and I'm completely comfortable. And you're like, I'm freezing. And that to me, immediately, I'm like, okay, he's not fine. And that's when my mind started just kind of trying to keep parameters on the side of the road, if you will. Like, okay, we need to keep Ian within this lane and this lane from here forward. As far as focused on family and Ron and bikes and all these things, trying to just guide you, I guess, if you will, as to where you really should have your head in the game versus where you thought you should have your head in the game.
Yeah. I get that. And I remember just thinking, like, trying to analytically think of what needs to take place at this moment. Right.
Yep.
I have no idea what happened. Right. And even the police labeled it as a no fault accident. Like, we've all talked about it. We're like, I don't know what happened. I don't know. But I remember thinking, like, just feeling this guilt of like, well, shit, I just killed my dad.
Oh God.
And then, well, shit, I almost killed my dad, and having that kind of laying over your head and not knowing exactly what happened and everything. And then, kind of if there's any humorous thing out of this, it's where your bike ended up.
Yeah.
So right here, I will put the picture up right here. Okay. His bike did all these cartwheels off the road, flying in the air, coming down, poof, poof. And then when you get off to the side of the road, you can see the divots where the bike would hit off the road.
Yeah, it'd be a divot, and then you go 15 feet with none of the sagebrush or grass disturbed at all, and then another big chunk.
And then the bike ends up straight up and down on the wire fence. Like all you got to do is just get on it and ride off.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was like
One of the
the hell?
troopers, I don't know if it was the second or the third trooper, he came up and said, "Where's the other bike?" And I said, "It's over there." And then because he didn't see your bike up against the fence, he thought that was someone parked there at first. And he goes, "How the hell did he do that?" Like he couldn't
For
even
real.
believe it either, right?
For real.
Yeah.
So going back to my spot, so I've since seen the bike and it is what the hell happened, right? I thought it was a little tip
Mhm.
over. So when I gave it throttle and the front end sunk, it made no sense to me why that front end sunk. Because I had good tires on, little knobbies. And when you give that thing throttle on the AtAt, that front end comes up. It made no sense to me. And I don't remember if I noticed it, if Shawn noticed it, if Critter noticed it, but somebody was like, "Oh, look at that." The whole left front, the disc for the brake completely came off and was like just deformed. And I think it was just holding on by a sliver. And so going back, I'm off the road and I'm like, oh, I got this. I'm going to give this son of a bitch throttle and get back up on the road like a boss. Give it throttle, and then the front end buried. Well, the front end buried because that disc got caught up in the caliper and
Mhm.
locked the front wheel up and sent me what I think now was flying. I literally thought it was a tip over, but looking at the bike and the rear end and all the crash bars are pushed all the way into the motor. Where you hang up your luggage racks in the back are completely like the brackets on the left side. So if you're looking at the bike from the back, the brackets are like thick steel and they're supposed to be 90 degrees. Well, it's like a very acute triangle all of a sudden. And on the other side, it's pushed out to about 45, 50 degrees. And that whole crash bar frame is completely moved to the right, like several inches, you know? And then I'm sitting there and talking to the insurance guy and we're going back and forth. And I'm like, there's oil on the ground, man. So something in the motor is broken and it's leaking oil, you know? And so the whole front left of the bike is gone. I'm sure the forks are not right, you know?
Wow.
And that whole left side of the bike is just essentially just toast, you know? And I remember looking at it, getting on the tow truck. I'm like, oh, yeah, man, we'll put some new forks on it. I'm going to call freaking Evo and we're going to get some new forks on it. We're going to be good to go. And
At that point, yeah, you wanted just to let's just roll it up there
yeah.
onto the tow truck. I'm like, no, they need to drag this. Your front end doesn't move. And you're like, what?
Huh? Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
I was a little oblivious to that point, but upon further review, yeah, they ended up totaling the AtAt. The AtAt is no more.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
it's gone. It's down at an auction yard, which I'm kind of curious about, to be honest.
You know what's really sad now, though, is poor Lucy is really lonely, right?
Yeah.
Our bikes are gone.
Yeah, Lucy will be
Yeah.
okay. I got an eye on another twin. Could be the AtAt squared, maybe. Who knows? Well, who knows?
Yeah,
But
this
I would
is
say to describe your front end and that disc to me looked like a warped record.
yeah,
But the other
Mhm.
thing on that is the point of impact. The point of impact from your bike to Ron's bike was very obvious that your front left disc on the AtAt made contact with the rear right swing arm of your bike, and when it came into that swing arm, it's spinning. It literally looked like somebody had put a die grinder on the back right of your swing arm. There was like a
Mhm.
groove,
wow.
like a record, or a die grinder type of a groove.
Gee, I need to
Yeah.
look at that. I haven't even I have the bike in the garage
Yeah,
at
so
home.
when you
Yeah,
see
we'll
that
get to
mark
that.
there, that's his disc.
Oh wow.
which
Yeah.
Which is what then caused the warping of that rotor,
right.
which all makes sense.
You must have for that much damage on your steel bars and everything. You must have hit the pavement, not just the shoulder.
No,
I saw no evidence of his bike
no.
hitting
You can
the pavement.
see
Really?
when I walked back, I do remember seeing the point of impact, and then you see exactly right where I come off. you see exactly where I go down off the road and ride on that sandy area off the road. I mean, you see the whole thing, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, the guy in the back is at fault, right? So that's the way that I see it. And I'm like, how did you? Because I remember you way up there, like way up there, and it was like I'm shifting gears. I'd look down at 37, and I look, and I'm like, seriously, like from what I remember, there's my dad, Critter's going, whatever. I look down 1001, 1000, I'm up, and chaos. Like literally, I mean, how long does it take you to look down? I'm not looking, the GoPros are off, which I kind of wish was on, but we're not running any cameras. So there's no distractions, right. There's no, I mean, we literally just pulled out. I mean, this happened 300 yards down the road out of Giant Loop. I mean, we literally just pulled out.
Yeah, there's one photo, and you're welcome to share it, that Brian took from camp at Giant Loop.
Yeah, I've seen it.
People off in the distance up on the roadway where there was an accident scene.
Yep.
They didn't know why, but it was completely visible from camp.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was just right there, and it makes no sense. It was like you were up there, 37, chaos.
Jeez.
I don't know what happened.
Well, it's really interesting to hear all this happening before I even regained consciousness. But it sounds to me, it sounds, I'm trying to figure out, was I truly unconscious? Because I was totally blacked out with nothing, and until I realized the EMT were working on me. But from what I'm hearing, people were talking to me and asking questions.
Yeah, I would say, at least from my perspective, and Chris chime in too, but I probably arrived 5 to 7 minutes after, maybe 7 minutes after impact. And you were on the side of the road, sitting up, having a conversation with the gal, completely alert. And that's why then I passed you on and went to him, because he wasn't necessarily being treated. And so I'm like, okay, what happened? And just watching you over there having a conversation, completely alert,
Well,
eyes open.
it's really, of course, I got a pretty significant concussion out of this whole thing. And so that I talked to the doctor, they scanned my brain and everything. And I talked to the doctor. I said, how come I don't have any memory? Prior to even hitting the pavement, why don't I have any memories? It's totally normal.
Yeah.
Oh,
which is a good thing, really. I think, in hindsight, I think that our bodies do that to protect us. And it's probably good that you don't have that memory. Like, unfortunately, I think Chris seeing it in the mirror, those are demons that take time to overcome. But sometimes when you're the person, not having that is a good thing.
Yeah, I think that's, I think if I were alert, I would have been bracing and tightening my body up, which is probably not good. You need to be flexible when you're hitting. So, I still believe, I can't believe the miracle of not getting hurt, other than my old brain, no loss.
You've got some road rash on your back and your legs.
Well, yeah, I did down on my left back and down my leg, but other than that, yeah. So anyhow, just what it makes, what's this fascinating for me to hear what everybody else was experiencing before I even came to. Makes me think of the time my buddy Don and I were up climbing Denali, and it was 11 o'clock at night. Of course, it's daylight. 11 o'clock at night, 30 below zero, and Don decides to try to go die on me, and so there were three of us. So our friend Sid stayed with him while I took off to get help
on the most dangerous part of the mountain.
Yeah, and so a year or two later, I was given a presentation to some Boy Scouts, and I recounted my experience. He was on the ground, unconscious, but I recounted my experience by myself in the middle of the night, crossing snow bridges and trying to go get help. And he said, "Man, I had no idea. That was quite a story." So I'm kind of soaking that kind of stuff up here right now. But so I guess I'm off to the hospital, and they scanned me from hips to head a couple of times, and like one doctor came in to see me, and she says, yeah, I'm out looking at your chart, getting ready to come in and talk to you. And she said, I looked at this and here's this 74-year-old guy. And she said, what the hell is a 74-year-old guy doing riding motorcycles? So she walked by the nurse's station, came around through the curtains and looked at me and she went, oh, well, you're not the typical 74-year-old guy after all. So that was kind of
Right.
nice to hear. But so I'm fine. They took my beloved Climb Kodiak pants off and wound up throwing them in the garbage because they were trashed.
Well, I think, sorry to interrupt because I know we're going here, but why don't we back up a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Because I think we're kind of jumping over a couple things.
Yeah, because I think clothing and protective gear is all a topic of its own.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that is going to be a good topic. But you were saying that you were out, and I'm wondering if that look that you gave me is kind of when you were starting to come back. Because when I walked up to you, you were not moving at all.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like you looked me in the eyes with this like dead look, but that I was like, okay, he's alive, right?
Yeah.
I knew
He
something,
was
but I think you were probably out, like out until that moment, and that wasn't very long, but maybe a
no,
minute or
long
two.
enough for me to ride up the 200, 300 feet away that I was when I had turned around, completely motionless for me. The length of time it took me to get up to where the accident was or where he was laying, pull around, park my bike, get off, come over and realize that the daughter, she was talking to me right away. I don't even remember what she was saying because I was more focused on seeing if he was breathing, and then realizing that the guy driving the truck was an EMT and he was already assessing Braun. He was completely motionless, completely out for that whole time. And then there was I'm not going to say, I can't, I don't know, maybe it seemed like forever, but maybe only 5 seconds, 10 seconds or whatever. But you started to come around and was receptive. And that's when the EMT guy said, the retired guy in the pickup truck said, we need to get him off the road. Because my first thought was, you can't move him. You know, everything I've been taught about, accidents, don't move him because you break his neck.
Yeah.
Right? Don't move him. So he was doing an assessment and assessing you, and he was doing all the proper things that we've all been taught, asking the questions. He was touching your body, looking for pain, looking for screams, looking for movement from you, touching lightly, doing all the proper things. So however long that took, you were completely out for that, for the whole time, for me coming up and motionless.
How did they get me off? Did 4 people grab an arm and a leg and carry me off, or how did they do that?
Well, what happened is you finally came to, and this is all before I ran off to Giant Loop. But you had finally come to, and you kind of just sat up, like you're just like you're laying kind of prone on the side, and you just sat up, put up, and the first, what happened? That's the very first thing you said. You woke up, what happened? And then it was like, the EMT guy's like, good, he's talking. Okay, there's something going on in the brain. That's good. And then it was himself and the daughter, because at that time the daughter said, is there any medics at the Giant Loop? And I said, I'll go check. And then him and the daughter, I believe, were the ones that pulled you off to the side and got you out of the way of traffic.
Though,
but even then,
stand up, and
I pulled him up.
So the 3 of you lifted Ron.
I remember.
I mean, did you with your feet?
Don't ask me.
I remember giving my hand and doing the wrist, the forearm to forearm thing and helping you up.
Okay.
So I actually, I walked to the side then with some help.
Okay, so here's
with some help. Yep.
Here's the thing. I remember giving you my hand. I don't remember how you got to the side.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't remember that at all.
Wow.
Yeah,
and I remember that part.
That just shows your level of shock as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember you grabbed I literally remember giving the hand. I remember you going on it, and I don't remember anything else until you were sitting on the side of the road.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I do remember right before we were going to move him, some farm lady pulled up in a red pickup. Unless this is a figment of imagination, but she was like, "Don't move him! You don't move him!"
I don't remember. I wasn't there yet.
Well, that's what I've always been taught. You know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She was. I'm pretty sure that happened.
So I was just thinking,
Jeez.
obviously, from what I'm hearing, I was doing my gymnastics routine pre-Olympics and hitting the ground. And as I said, my really significant injury is my concussion, which is no fun, by the
Mhm.
way, dizzy and headaches and stuff. But I should have brought my helmet
Oh, yeah.
because I was wearing a Schubert, good high quality helmet. And I obviously did hit, doing cartwheels and
Multiple times.
so the front of above my forehead along the helmet, the the beak and the shield and everything was ripped off, and then there's scrape marks all the way across the front like it was sliding on the pavement. And then I don't know which came first, the front or the back, but if you and then I scraped the front sliding on the concrete, and then the back looks like there's a spot, a big spot on the back that looks like somebody held it up to a grinder and
Mhm.
ground right into the material, deep into the material. It's like, holy
I think
crap.
you slid across that highway for at least 50 yards. At least 50 yards.
Well, I tell you, we're going to talk more about the gear, but between what I was wearing and the helmet, what a miracle. Just
Yeah.
fabulous quality stuff nowadays.
So, excuse me.
Well, so let's move. Let's stay on the timeline.
Yeah.
So the police have arrived, the traffic controls arrived. Now the paramedics arrive, and they're assessing Ron. You're doing quite a bit of discussions with the police officers about the accident. I don't recall them spending much time with Ron. Do you, Chris?
Not very, very little,
Yeah,
very, very little time. Just maybe asking him his name, but
right.
yeah,
That's right.
most of the time
They
spent
didn't
with
really do much of an
I
interview of you.
no,
And then,
I do
Mhm.
remember that they asked for his ID,
yeah,
and I went and
Yeah.
got that.
yeah.
I do remember that, and then he gave it back to me after you left. That's what I know.
Yeah, and so then there was some discussions at that point between you and me and the police about getting a tow out there, a tow truck. The paramedics are working on Ron. I would say they were probably there maybe a total of 15 minutes from arrival to assessing you, and then getting you loaded up was 15 to 20 minutes. Um, does that sound right, Chris?
About that, yeah,
15 to
definitely
20.
more time was spent with the fella in the truck and his daughter.
Yeah,
When EMT got there, EMT was they were on it. Boom, 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 and
I
we
wish I
were
had that
gone.
guy's info.
So I was just going to say, I wonder if anybody got their
Yeah,
yeah.
information.
those
I
two were those
In
two were
hindsight,
phenomenal.
so
They yeah.
he's a veteran, and we're kind of affiliated with each other, kind of through some circles. So there's a chance I could reach out to him if you guys don't have that information.
Yeah.
No,
So
I
he
don't.
and I chatted on the side of the road, and ended up we had mutual friends, and we're both kind of in the same nonprofit helping veterans circle. So I'm happy to reach out. And see. I didn't know you guys
It'd be
didn't
nice.
have his information.
It'd be nice to
Um,
thank them. Yeah.
Ironically, while I was
Mhm.
standing there on the side of the road, I noticed I'm going off on a tangent, but I noticed a
You-
biker go through the accident scene, and I noticed the sticker on his windscreen, and I thought, oh, I know who that sticker belongs to. I just thought somebody kind of like put, me seeing a bike with a Critter Moto sticker on it. Oh, that's neat. Hey, I know Critter Moto, and this guy's repping his sticker. Turned out it was that guy, and he was up from Arizona just on a motorcycle trip. He wasn't even in town for Giant Loop, and literally was riding through the scene. So I knew the guy, but he didn't see me, and context of the scene
Mhm.
was off.
I'll be darned.
But so we got you loaded up in the ambulance. You're right. You didn't want to go.
Right.
I think they and we all kind of insisted. You didn't put up much fight, but you were trying to be like, "Hey, what's the problem? I'm fine."
Well, I literally, I don't know if I said it out loud, but I definitely said it to myself. Don't pull a Rick. Go ahead and go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't say that out
Yeah.
loud.
Not that we
Um,
heard.
You're right. Not that I heard. So off you went, and then I would say about 10 minutes later, we're kind of just standing around waiting for the tow truck. and some old farm boy shows up in this Ford truck, drives right down into the ditch where your bike is, just kind of like he owned the place. He didn't bother stopping by and talking to anybody. And this guy gets out of his pickup, walks over to your bike, and I'm still kind of like, what's this guy doing? I mean, he's really acting like he owns this place. And he just starts cutting the wire fence, and then 2 or 3 of the troopers move your bike backwards, and then he just repairs the barbed wire fence, gets in his truck, and he's gone again.
Oh, I'll be
Yep.
damned.
The strangest
Just like
surreal
that.
thing. I mean, because I kept looking at that, man, I feel bad at cutting some guy's fence, and it's just going to
Yeah.
be, wide open for however long. No, it was repaired, and he was gone before the tow truck even arrived.
Wow. You can just hear him going, these damn city slickers.
Oh yeah, probably.
I think this is where the probably a little bit of the time frame kind of changes for all of us, because at this point Papa Cake's is getting into the ambulance, and then they take him away and did their things, but we still got stuff going on at the scene. So why don't we go over to the Cakey Poppies, and why don't you tell us, do you remember anything about the ambulance ride, what they were doing? Take us through the ambulance ride to get into the hospital.
I was totally alert and real nice gals. And like I said, she drew my blood, so she had all that ready for the labs when we got there. They were awesome.
Yeah.
And of course, same thing at the, what is it, St. Charles, or I think it's affiliated with the Bend Hospital. Great people. They were great. Yeah, several of them helping, and even though they threw my pants away, but yeah, it was great. And actually, well, we'll talk more about the clothes later.
I was gonna say, I think when you got in the ambulance, I hollered up at you, "Don't flirt with the nurses too much."
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's the first time a lady was trying to get my pants off in decades.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I remember it was a very surreal feeling watching you leave. It was weird. The last time I watched somebody I love leave was unfortunately when Janice passed, and watching her, be taken down the road.
Oh God.
That was not that's where my mind went. It was like, okay, so we've got this, right?
Yeah, and I saw that in your mood too, your whole demeanor. It was very evident to me that, I mean, it's kind of cliche, but I almost killed my dad kind of a sentiment was this cloud over you. It was very much, it was driving you.
Well, not only that, but I remember when he was leaving, this might sound weird, but it felt like I had some sort of a weird control with the situation. Like I was very like, if I needed to know what was going on, I could just ask somebody, right? Like, okay, we're all together right now. And then it was like the ambulance takes off, and then it was just like a little bit of that helplessness. Like we had this whole shit mess to deal with over here, but my dad just got taken away, right? So it's like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Right. So you kind of have that empty feeling of like, okay, because we saw it on top of everything else, break down camp.
Yeah, you still had to. Well, I mean, we still had to load bikes out of the ditch and figure out how do you get home, and that was where I kept thinking, okay, Saturday, the rest of all of your plans, because I mean, the 3 of you had your My Oregon video and Giant Loop, and you had all of these things planned, and I don't think it had quite hit you that your plans are done.
Right.
So you still had in your mind, how can I recover some of this? How can I get to the wedding? And that was where I felt like I'm just, okay, Saturday's the wedding. You've got to get your dad and wedding. The rest of this is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And we got to figure out how to get you into that mindset.
Yeah. Which took me a minute.
It did.
And we'll skip forward to the wedding real quick. When I got home on Thursday, you kind of hold your shit together, right? And it wasn't like an emotional breakdown. It was like an anger thing, So you get home and people are like asking questions. And it was just like, just kind of let loose a little bit, I was kind of a dick when I got home, honestly.
Just leave me alone, kind of a
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then I was like, what's wrong? And then that just led to more anger. And then, Friday I woke up and it was just like there's so much. Wasn't a lot to do, but we had like the wedding rehearsal. We had to put things together, and we had to do A, B, and C, and get the stuff going. But I'm still holding like this weird. I'm sore. I wake up the next morning, my ribs are hurting, my shoulders hurting. The freaking AtAt, my dad. I mean, everything is just like, what in the hell is going on, right? So I'm kind of in a mood, right?
Oh yeah.
So, and people are kind of staring clear, and then even like the morning of the wedding, it took me. I was in a shit mood in the morning, like screw the world kind of mood. And then when I pulled up to the wedding, the thing that changed, right, 180 degrees, is I'm kind of uncertain on what the time frame for me to actually be at the wedding. So everybody takes off, and find out I'm supposed to be there whatever time. And I think Justice was like, "You're kind of being a dick, so be there later than everybody else." That's kind of how I was taking it. And
He probably was right.
he probably was spot on right. So I remember I was pulling up. So the Hopkins demonstration forest, which is actually Justice's now wife, Shelby, her grandfather actually owns it. And so they're having this beautiful wedding out there. And I remember pulling in, I am listening to some freaking Devil Driver music, and I'm just like, yeah, excuse me. Like, I don't know. I'm just in the mood, right? And I pull up, and so when you pull into this place, the road comes down and kind of makes a little bit of a dog leg to the right to the main lodge. Well, off to the left is another road, and there's a pavilion down there for like picnics, barbecues, and then a couple like other lodges down there. So all the girls are down in this lodge, and I'm pulling up, and my granddaughter Everly is walking in this beautiful white dress, right? She's all done up and stuff, and that's what I see. And then I see the photographer, I don't know, 5-10 feet behind her, right? And she's walking. I'm like, where the hell is she going? She looks so cute. Oh my God. And I look, and there's this little like bridge thing, and Justice is standing on it with his back to Everly. And I like hit my brakes. And it was like Justice's first look at his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to witness that, like a very emotional moment. And I'm like, we're at a wedding, kids. All right. It changed everything.
Good.
But it took that moment. Right. But okay. So there's a side tangent.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's important because kind of Chris mentioned it too. We each had to process this, all of us, even though I didn't see the initial scene, the way Chris mentioned that he didn't ride the next day.
Yeah.
I went through those same scenarios too. I don't think yours was anger like his was, but I know after you've been in an accident, it's just, or you've been witness to one, your mood, you're in a funk of some sort. And I think we all had to come through that in our own way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can say that that was not Ian. That day going back home, he was still totally in shock.
Yeah.
He was putting on a good face, but
I'd agree.
It wasn't him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, like you say, the crazy Ian was gone.
Yeah. Well, then there's so many things that had been thrown upside down all at once. His dream motorcycle, his dream trip, his dream of riding with his dad. What did I do to my dad? There's so many elements that any one of those would have put you in a bad mood.
Yeah.
And you had to deal with 6 or 8 of them.
Right. And then I was also worried about that Canadian guy right there too.
Yeah, he kept texting me, make sure you check up on Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely doing that.
Yeah, people did check up on me throughout the thing, and but very much like how Ian was, I just needed to be alone. I just needed to process, right? So I appreciate everybody come up and how's Papa Cakes? Have you heard? How's Ian? How are you? I appreciate everybody's concern, and
absolutely,
I understand it's all coming from a place of love and caring, right? But at that time, it was just like I need to decompress. I need to figure this out and, deal with it type stuff. But,
Yeah, I had the same feeling the next morning when our group went off on their ride. I literally just went into the hot springs by myself. Like I wanted an hour or two of just silence,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
me
Well,
time.
it really, not to be too seriously blunt and everything, but it really was um, almost a life-ending moment,
Oh yeah.
right? Like,
It's super.
man, if the EMT guy in the pickup truck, if that guy hadn't been EMT, I think things would have turned out completely different. And I mean, I don't know who's looking down on you or what was looking down on you or whatever, but I mean that could have gone horribly bad. And I
It
think
was
that's what I
just a hair different,
Hmm.
like
yeah,
and that's why I keep saying it was an absolute miracle. How could I
yeah, yeah,
just walk away from that?
Yeah, and I
yeah.
even remember when Ian first brought up the idea of this discussion. I think part of the goal was to help with lessons learned, and I remember telling him, there's no lesson to learn as far as the accident
No,
itself. Like, how could you prevent this? Um, this is absolutely a fluke accident that I can't look at anybody and say, well, had they done this different, it wouldn't have occurred. It's not like, certain accidents you can say, oh, well, they brake too hard or they shouldn't have been on that trail, but this isn't that kind of scenario. But on the other hand, I think that just discussing it kind of, the good that can come from this is explaining that everybody there, even the EMT and his daughter, have trauma from seeing this. Like Chris is,
hmm
I think everybody that was there has some trauma, and so just discussing it's a good thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I when I first started thinking like maybe we should do this, that was kind of my thought. Like maybe somebody can learn something from this. But then even like today, I got 2 messages just checking in. There's certain people that continuously just check in to see how everybody's doing. A lot of the focus has been on Papa Cakes. Like how's he doing? How's he healing? Because a lot of people know about the road rash.
Mhm.
A lot of people
yep.
know about the concussion and stuff. And I've tried to be a bit cryptic, if you will, because I just didn't want. And Shawn, you actually kind of counseled me a little bit on the day because I went on my story a couple times and I was just like, "Hey, this is what happened," and you were like, "Say it this way, say it
Well,
that way."
yeah, well, you originally came to me and you're like, "Oh man, I want to go like either live or do a story." And I went, "Whoa, whoa, 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 time out. I get what you want to do, but let's slow down and you need to think of the insurance side of this and
Right,
the legal ramifications that just don't tell your whole life story in this next reel. You can save it for another time."
right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this is right now.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, this
Yeah.
this is answering all the questions. And like I said, a big reason of doing this is there's so many questions out there. And it's like, how do I text this or how do I this is the best format. Like I have this format at my disposal and I'm just thankful that the 3 of you guys decided, "Hey, let's do this."
Yeah, I think it's important. I think the lessons that can go to the next incident that other people are at, or that at least from my own experience, and this is not my first time at a near fatal accident on a motorcycle, is that you tend to compartmentalize. And so that's where, for me, I walked up and I kind of determined very quickly my role is this because there's other people doing that.
Right.
And you can't duplicate. It's not good to duplicate. So I'm wasting my time if I was over treating you when 2 people were already working with you.
Right.
And I think that's important for all of us and people watching, that when they're at an accident scene, there's typically a leader, and if that person's a good leader, let them be a leader and just, where do you want me? What
Yeah.
should I do?
hmm
And then just start pointing.
Yeah, and also just take a breath
Oh,
and try
totally.
to get yourself,
Yeah, for me, it
settled.
slows down. When I walked up to the setting, like I think somebody walked up to me at first. I think it was the daughter, and she started to tell me stuff, and I almost ignored her because I didn't need that briefing. I needed to see you, and I needed to see you, and then okay, I slowed down, like you say, and all right, where does this scene need to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of at that point I had uh, Chris didn't have any signs of shock um, going on visibly, but I knew that he probably had witnessed this, and so there was a trauma there as well. But I think we talked several times along the side of the road, kind of checking in. I was worried
Yep.
about Ian, and so we were comparing notes on Ian and things like that.
Yeah, a lot of that. Yep. I was following your lead. So you were a rock star through there. You were constantly saying, "Yeah, we got to keep checking on Ian. We got to make sure he drinks some water."
Yeah, and that's when I called the guys back at camp and I said, "Hey, we're at this accident scene and I just need water out here, like because it's starting to get
Oh.
sunny and hot." And so they rolled out, 6 or 8 bottles of Gatorade, and we offered them to the police and everybody.
Oh, good.
But you were the concern because as soon as you said that you were cold, I'm like, that's BS. You're not cold. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no reason for you to be cold unless you've got something going on.
Yeah. I mean, what, chest protector,
Well, you
full-
were
full
fully geared
gear.
up and
Yeah.
it's 70 degrees. Why aren't you? And you're standing in the road. Why aren't you? And the sun's beating down on you. I would have been sweating at that
Mhm.
I'm
point.
sure I was.
And yeah.
But I just remember being ice cold, like shivering and
Well,
stuff.
that
Yeah.
you told, and fortunately, you were honest about that. And you're
Yeah.
like, because I said, take your gear off. And you're like, but I'm freezing.
Yeah.
And I think I looked at Chris like, oh, that was like,
Yeah.
we both did and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this isn't, his little playing that I'm fine is not working with me anymore at that point.
So you guys were checking in.
That's
You're
right.
like, we know he's screwed up because he's acting normal.
You're
Yeah.
completely true.
That's
I've heard
right.
that a few times.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
No, but back to your point on the Instagram stuff is, yeah, I definitely figure it's safer to be a little cryptic. Hey, we're fine. You may have heard some things. We're good.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I know everybody wanted to hear things, but I just thought it doesn't do anybody any good to give them too much detail 30 minutes after this. So you can always do it another day.
So
It's kind of interesting, or not. It's actually really cool that that makes you realize your family, your motorcycle family, your
Mhm.
friends,
yeah.
the emotion levels. Usually it's clowning around, goofing off, and being friends, but the emotion levels whoosh way up here,
Yeah.
and you're all like connecting and working with each other, and it's like that's really special.
Well, yeah, it's
It
another.
is.
It's about that old guy in the ditch, but these people really, pretty cool.
Yeah,
Well,
the moto
and
community is
I think
amazing.
though on the flip side, there's been enough accidents with people in the last year and a half that most of us know that. I mean, frankly, I kind of have an expectation that y'all are going to save my ass.
Yeah, 100%.
And I know you would, but
Yeah.
I pick who I'm riding with that knowledge that if I'm the one off the side of the ditch,
Yeah.
you're going to figure it out and get me back.
Absolutely.
Pretty touching.
So there's a couple things that happened next. One, I don't remember what I remember. I called my insurance company. I don't know if that's probably too early or what.
No,
I wanted
you
to.
asked the trooper, should I call my insurance? And he said, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Don't remember that. Okay. So I ended up calling and just clarifying a little bit more on my coverage. And first, what we did, I do remember the police officer gave me 3 options for towing companies, and I just randomly picked the cheapest. And I'm going to tell you 100% the absolute best decision I've ever made.
Oh yeah.
In this world. Was it Sam's Towing?
Yeah.
Sam's comes out, and this guy Brad, who's the owner
Of Sam's Towing.
of Sam's, well, he bought it,
Yeah.
and Sam retired or whatever happened, and he ended up buying this company. And yes, Brad comes out, totally cool guy. like right from the, like, I don't remember initial reactions. I remember him saying, "How do you want me to do this? You guys are the experts." Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't really remember much of anything. I remember we went back to the entrance of Giant Loop after the bikes were already on.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember having a moment of watching the AtAt get drug up that thing and just being sick to my stomach, like, fuck, that's my bike. Like, what the hell? Right. So I had that moment. I specifically remember the feeling in my stomach. I remember kind of coming back and we were having this conversation of how my dad and I are going to get back into town. And at this point, we're still a little loosey goosey on, are they going to keep him overnight? You know, kind of what's going on with him. We still weren't sure at that point what was going on. I remember he was like, yeah, we're going to take it back to Burns. We're going to put him in our yard and this and this. He's like, I don't remember if this was before we took the bikes over there or whatever, but he was like, you know, if you guys come out on Monday, I'm not going to charge you a storage fee. You know, if your insurance is going to pay, then, you know, things are different, but blah, 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 blah. And he's going through this thing. And he's like, you have the stereotypical mind of what a tow truck driver is.
In the city.
Yeah. He is not that.
Oh, 100%.
He is a
No, not at all.
genuine, good human being. Critter, get me one too. And we're going to get a little bit more into the aftermath, but he is, if you are ever in Burns and you need to get fuel, go to Sam's.
Mhm.
Just go to that fuel station. It's actually going to be the cheapest one, and just help that guy.
Yeah, it's right on Main Street.
Yeah. It's on 395. So if you're coming down through 20 and you're coming across from Bend and you hit the main stoplight and then 20 makes the left and starts heading out of town, it's about 3 or 4 blocks up on your left. Go there.
I described him to people as, I mean, he's the epitome of that hometown farm boy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
just showed up and, what can I do to help you guys? And I'm not going to screw you guys with any excessive costs. Insurance is going to pay what they're legally required to pay, and I can charge them, but I'm not going to screw you guys.
Yeah.
I remember that whole conversation and just being
100%.
so impressed with, gosh, why can't there be more people like this guy?
Well, it gets better here in
Yeah.
a little bit too. So I remember him getting there, and then I remember we still had to break down camp. So at this point, you're in the hospital, or as the Europeans say, hospital. He's in hospital.
Yeah.
Right. So you're over there, and I don't remember much leaving, but leaving the accident scene, I remember talking to him at the entrance. Like, he was just like, we need to get off the road and be safer, and then we'll go over here and we'll just talk.
Yeah, that's where you exchange numbers and did all
Right.
that stuff.
Right. We did? Is that where we did that?
Mhm.
Okay, I don't remember that part.
Yeah, you got his phone number, he texted you or whatever. That's where those discussions took place.
Oh, well, I kind of do remember that
Yeah,
now.
because
Okay.
you pulled over right into that gravel at the front of Giant Loop, and I pulled in kind of right next to that, and then we all got out and just kind of had one last 5-minute kind of powwow.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the discussion about how we were going to get to Bend, because at that point we decided to rent a car, and we needed to get to Bend.
Well, at that point, I was kind of, thinking, do I drive you to Bend to get to a rental car? Do I drive you to Oregon City? And that's when I believe that's when he said, because of the way insurance works, we can also provide a shuttle service.
Yeah. Which we'll touch on that real quick. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So we were able to get Papa Cakes out several hours later. And then it was his wife's
Sister.
It wasn't a daughter. I don't know. Anyway, she just graduated something down in Arizona. She threw us in a Ford Explorer and drove us from Burns to Bend to Enterprise Rental Car. We rented a car and came home.
Kind of just like Brad was, just super friendly.
Yeah.
I'm here to serve you. Kind of a servant's heart minded.
Right.
Both of them were that way.
Well, so I remember the next thing I remember from that is you stopped and Tiffany and Brian were at the road.
Yeah.
On the side of the road. I don't remember if Tiffany hugged me or not, but I remember, I think the first thing, that door opened up and giant Brian coming in and giving me a hug. And that was very like, if you know Brian or whatever, that meant the world to me.
Yeah.
Like, it was so out of the blue. I didn't expect it. I expected like, hey bro, you good? Like very Marine.
Yeah.
Right. But the door came up and this hug happened. And I was just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I almost drove by them. I thought they were just waving as I was driving you back to your campsite. And I saw them and wait. And then I'm like, oh, and I shouldn't be rude. I should stop.
Right.
And that's when kind of, well, open the door. I think he was pretty insistent on, I'm giving that guy a hug.
Yeah, that meant a lot. I think Tiffany did too.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't remember anything that was said. I remember then you drove around to the campsite. Critter, I think you were already there, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And I remember just getting out, and I sat down in the chair, and I just looked at you and go, I need a minute. I specifically remember that. Like, I just sat down. I was just like, I need a minute, And I remember just being extremely overwhelmed, emotionally, physically, and then looking at camp of my stuff and my dad's stuff. And I'm like, I gotta pack all this shit up, and like, we still have all our giant loop bags there, giant loop Mototech. And so we still had all this stuff to break down. And it was just like, and at this point, you and I have been texting, and you're like, hey, they just gave me scans. Hey, I'm okay, which is, good, and you're like, hey, bring me this, bring me that, make sure you bring me this. And I'm like, where is this stuff? So trying to find all of that, get it out, and then just pack. And then I don't really remember too much about packing everything up, but I remember my dad's cot was a pain in the ass to break down.
Yes, it was.
I remember looking at Critter. I'm just like, and at this point, I'm starting to have like left side pain in my ribs, and so I'm trying to like push on this thing to get these poles out. And I've never put this thing together, so I have no idea how it comes apart. It's just like all these like weird tent poles in these fancy directions, I think he bought it at REI Starbucks edition. It was like very, very fancy, very posh. And so I was just like, we're trying to get it done. And the Critter's like, this thing's a piece of shit. What the? We're just like, what is going on here? So we finally get him undone and then get me undone and stuff. And one thing, Shawn, you took super good care of me. I know that it takes a family to raise somebody like myself. And I understand that, but you were on the crash site. I remember Gatorade, and you kept like, go drink, go drink.
Oh, I was very pushy.
I don't remember that part, but I just remember go drink, go drink. And I don't know how much, if anything. I don't know if I finished anything.
Oh, you did. Couple.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. I would even look over at you and kind of give you a direct order. Ian, start drinking that. You remember that, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was very direct.
Yeah.
I wasn't taking no crap.
I appreciate that.
Do that.
Yeah. And I'm very thankful for that. And then the other thing I was very thankful for is we were just kind of sitting there, and I don't remember if we were already taking stuff down or whatever, but you like disappeared for a while because you got some VB40 stuff to take, to kind of deal with. And you kind of disappeared, and then you came back with a sandwich.
Yeah.
And you're like, here, you're going to eat this.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, that's right.
And I remember eating that going like, holy shit, I didn't realize I needed this. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's because I figured the rest of my day was going to be taken with hospital and that sort of stuff. And so I needed to make sure my team knew where I was and that, okay, I'm bailing on you for the rest of the day. Because normally that's our big day where all of our guests are arriving and I need to be there to greet them. And this is kind of like I'm usually the point on that. And so I needed to make sure in my own mind it was covered. So I made myself your sandwich, and I'm like, okay. And I kind of needed, almost like you sitting in your chair, I went back to the trailer and kind of, oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's not how I thought today was going to go.
Just need a minute.
Yeah.
And then Critter, you helped trying to pack Papa up and my stuff. And I think you were,
like,
I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I feel like you were like my supervisor Like you were just kind of making sure I got everything right and wasn't
Yeah,
leaving anything
yeah,
behind.
yeah. I would say that because I know how I am when I get overwhelmed and distraught, and when you got back to camp and you sat down and you said, I just need a minute, I'm like, okay, I think I know where he's at, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to like kind of supervise and help, and I'm just going to let him do his thing, and I'm going to do whatever I can, but basically, for lack of a better term, just I'm going to walk on eggshells basically, but supportively, right? Like I'm there for you, I'm helping you out, but I'm going to let you go through the process of doing all the packing and stuff. And I think the breakthrough moment was your dad's cot, because that thing was a bitch. And like, we had a hard time figuring that out, both of us, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, you were still, I mean, when you got back to camp, you weren't as bad, but I mean, you were still heavily affected by the happenings and what was going on. And
I felt embarrassed.
You did.
Yeah.
We talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt really
Yeah.
embarrassed.
You thought, I think you
Yeah.
had the feeling coming back into Giant Loop, like all 800 people are looking at me,
Yeah.
because we discussed that a little bit. You said it in the truck that you felt embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no
Yeah.
reason to be embarrassed. Nobody out
No.
here even knows what happened. Just keep it that way. Little accident.
Yeah.
Things are fine. Move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
And I remember you, to your point, Chris, with the taking down camp, I'm like, okay, how long do you need? I'm thinking 20 minutes and then we'll go see Ron. And you're like, you said something like, I can't break down camp in less than 45 minutes to an hour. And I'm like, that gives me time to go to the trailer. I'm just, same thing.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of an eggshell
Yeah.
there. You do you. I'm going to let you kind of take some deep breaths. I'll be back.
Was I being a dick when I said that?
No,
Oh God, no,
not
not
at
at all.
Oh, okay.
No.
It was just an awareness of, I need this much time, and we all just needed to let it happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah, no, you weren't a dick at all.
not only
No.
was I feeling.
No, I would say we were more letting you do you.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Like we're giving you free reign to just be you and deal with what you need to
Right.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I frankly did, because all the gear was going in the back of my truck, but I didn't care whether you just hold up 4 stakes or packed it neatly. But to you, there's 45 minutes to an hour, and I'm like, okay, I get where
Yeah.
he's at with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, I remember I come in, needed a minute. I remember during that minute, that's when I really started feeling like embarrassed that this happened. And then it was like getting text messages from dad now, like, hey, I'm ready. And it was just like, then you feel the pressure of leaving
Yeah,
and
because
getting there.
you wanted to get out of jail.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, hurry up, guys. But yeah, it was a perfect storm there. So we got everything taken down. And then I remember the stupid thing of worrying about things blowing out of the back of your truck. And you're like, no, it's fine. I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah, you didn't trust me on that first, because I've got the rooftop tent over top. There's just not a lot of churn
Yeah.
back there, and I'm used to it. But I was a little more aloof, I think, than you.
Did you
wanted.
seriously just say aloof on the podcast?
We learned those words at Milwaukee instead of Rex Putnam.
Oh, okay. Well, that sure.
But yeah, I remember. I think you were a little annoyed though that I was just okay with it. Like, it's not going to happen. Don't worry about it. And you're thinking, yeah, what does he know? This stuff blows out all the time. Was kind of the attitude. But I'm like, it'll be fine.
Just chill.
It's on me. I got this.
Yeah. Yeah. Which obviously nothing
Yeah.
ever did.
Yeah.
It did flop. So
And there was a lot of gear back there, because I mean, the one thing we didn't say was at the accident scene, I think Chris and I, there was kind of a moment where, okay, we both think these bikes are total. Let's strip
Yeah.
them of what we can, because sometimes you don't get that stuff back.
Yeah.
I
That's right.
actually specifically remember, like, we're gonna get stuff off your bike, and I was like, yeah, okay. And you guys are taking off all the bags. I mean, anything that was personal. You were taking off like my quad lock stuff, all the ram mount stuff. And Shawn, you're like, I even grabbed your mirrors. I'm like, attaboy.
Cool.
Attaboy. I appreciate that, because they're the aftermarket beers,
$20 here, $100 there. It
Yeah.
can save you down the road. And I know sometimes once it gets to the tow yards or the insurance guy,
Yeah.
sometimes the insurance people come in and say, well, you can't touch it. We have to evaluate it the way it is. And I'm
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
we're going to
yeah.
fix this.
Yeah, and especially on some of my bags too, because I have that giant loop Revelstoke bag that I would put on the back of the AtAt. Well, in that bag, on the very bottom is all my like insurance stuff and my emergency toilet paper, but also like my ham radio,
Mhm.
right? So I mean that's several $100 right there, and then I have my toolkit in between, right? So
Mhm.
however many tools I have in there, like a lot, and then my trauma bag, that's all in that Revelstoke bag, and you guys like snagged it. My tank
Cool.
bag,
Cool.
my mirrors, and like I said, I was like really impressed. Like I didn't really realize until I'm like taking stuff out in the garage, and I'm like, I got my quad lock stuff, nice,
And your bike too. I mean,
yeah.
I looked at your Denali stuff and was like, I'm not messing with that. But we pulled everything that
Oh,
if
yeah.
you could get it off in under
Everything we
60
could.
seconds, it came off.
Yeah.
Well, just because I'm very forgetful, but speaking of the Denali stuff, I put those really fabulous lights on for safety, and I was really concerned. I mean, I got $1,000 in those,
Yeah.
the computer and the lights and everything in the back. I wanted that stuff back and not be stolen in the yard. But just a little pointer, just for people to know, I found this out in talking to my insurance company that my insurance company Progressive said they give you a $500 credit if you put some of those yellow running lights on your bike. So keep that in mind if you add lights to your bike.
Awesome.
Check with your insurance company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
So I remember, Critter,
Wait,
you
have
and
Progressive?
yeah,
So I have Progressive. I'll have to. All of a sudden, it just clicked. I'll have to ask that because I've never.
Yeah, hell yeah, give them a call.
yeah, because you got USAA and then the motorcycle,
I have Progressive for my bike.
right? But USAA goes through Progressive for the motorcycle
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
So that's what he has too.
Okay, gotcha.
Anyways, so Critter, you took really good care of me
Yeah.
around camp. And it was kind of weird because I remember sitting there and you were kind of just staring off into something else, kind of looking around, and like there was, I don't know, there's probably a girl walking around or something. But, we were just kind of chit chat or whatever. But I remember looking at you and being like, I think this moment is a lot calmer for me right now because you're like 2 feet away from me.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you and I have been really good friends for a moment, but I think just you being there, it helped calm me a little bit. And then just you helping break down the camp, and I don't really remember too much about that. I remember that we did it. I remember we were trying to get stuff into bags and you were like, okay, that's your cod. I'm not touching that. And then you're like, wait, that's easier.
Yeah.
Like, I remember that part. Right. But, I'm really appreciative that you were there in that moment. You were there kind of, that could have been a loose cannon moment for me too. You know what I mean? If somebody came up and said, hey, what did you do, dumb shit? Something like that. Not that that would happen, but
Yeah, and like I appreciate you saying that, but like I had said earlier, like I know how I would be in that moment, and that's why I was behaving how I was, and just letting you be you, and just trying to keep everything calm and chill. And one of the big things about when we were breaking down camp that really stands out is the apologizing you were doing, like, and still trying to save
Mhm.
the trip. Like you're still going, okay, well, maybe, after the wedding I can grab my dad's other bike and we can still do the trip. And I kept going, dude, no, it's good, it's done, just, you're done, just go do the wedding and we'll make up our trip another day. It's no problem, absolutely no problem. And we probably had that conversation 3 or 4 times, just of
seriously?
you trying to save the trip. You were feeling so bad about the trip not happening, like all this epic filming we were going to do. And I just kept saying, I'm just happy that everybody's alive, like, go and enjoy the wedding, and we'll pick up the filming another day. Like,
Right.
that is so far from my mind right now. But and also, I mean, to echo, like Shawn, you're sitting right in front of me on the screen. You were a freaking rock star through that whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, you were
Wasn't he
amazing.
though?
So yeah.
Fabulous.
Oh yeah.
I would just think, listen,
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here listening to you guys talk about all this stuff, and I'm thinking, oh, I had it easy.
Yeah,
I'm laying in the emergency room and looking at my phone and telling me to do this and that, and you guys are all scurrying around taking care of things, and really nice to know.
he was flirting with the nurses.
Yeah, I was gonna say the two
Yeah.
cute nurses paying attention to you.
Yeah,
Mom.
and he goes up to life story. Oh yeah, this lady right here, she rides. Yeah, but it was just very appreciative, and I remember feeling leaving. It was this really sense of just dread almost that the trip wasn't happening. Like the realization was kind of sitting in a little bit more. I was in a hurry to get to the hospital, but I think one of the really most just gut wrench. Not, I don't even know how to say this, but when we passed the Venture Cooperative bus, they were they were just about there, and Scott and Steph, I love them. And it was like I was so excited just to hang out and see them anyways. And then like we passed them on the road and we're waving. And I saw Scott, just after the event Sunday, they came through town and we had dinner. And we were just kind of talking about all this. And they were like, oh yeah, some weird guy was waving at us, But then I think if I remember correctly, he remembered because he told him or something like that.
So what happened was probably less than 60. So we get in the truck and we start heading to the hospital. I've got the cruise set at, I don't know, 65 or 70 or whatever. And you said to me out of the blue, just in part of our conversation, you were really kind of had this depressive kind of sigh. And I miss seeing Scott and Steph. They're not even here yet. I'm so bummed. And then within 30 seconds of that, I see the bus coming at us.
Right.
So I'm flashing the high beams at the bus, and I think I put my hand out the window and was waving at them. And then finally, at the very last minute, I see Scott kind of wave, and he doesn't know my truck, obviously, but he knew somebody was excited to see them.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like, hey, weirdos. Nah, but that was just kind of this moment where I was just like, oh, man, okay. But then it was like, hurry up, Shawn.
Yeah.
Get there. And then we got to the hospital, and it was weird to get in, ring the bell. Lady came up.
You need to go over here.
Yeah, you need to go over here. And then they finally, I think we weren't even through the door and they knew who we were. They're like, Ron? I'm like, yeah.
Oh, he's back here.
Yeah. So we ended up getting back there, but then, you're all good to go. I have these clothes with you or for you and whatever. So, and at that moment, I wasn't sure what to think because I haven't seen you in 2-3 hours at this point. And we get in there and you're like, well, help me change or whatever. So he takes his shirt off and I'm just instantly like, son of a fucking bitch.
Oh,
his whole back is just road rash.
Yeah,
his leg is just road rash. And I'm just, that whole overwhelming, like, I'm like, hey, well, look at that. That looks nice. But inside, I'm like this overwhelming guilt of just like, what the hell just happened? Trying to kind of, I don't even know, just calculate not even calculate, like comprehend, what's going on. And then we just start having this conversation about like, how did this happen? And this jacket must have rolled to the side or something, or this or that,
sense how you could have road rash on your back when literally your whole jacket looked in the torso area looked fine.
I mean, you could see lines of where it had been scraping, but I'm still baffled about that. What the hell? My shirt under the jacket was shredded with holes.
Right.
And then my back is like, how did that happen?
I don't even
It goes
know.
to show, they some jackets, and in fact, I think that jacket has a zipper,
It does.
on the lower back to hold it from moving. And I've never connected my zippers back there to the pants.
Yeah.
But
maybe we do that.
maybe we should.
I don't know. So we had this conversation because I wear the motocross chest protector, the Lee F 5.5, the shoulders and the ribs and everything. and then you just had the back protector in their jacket. So what would the difference be, right? We don't know. This is all just hearsay. Would it have been different? Maybe, maybe not.
Well, and
Who
there's
knows?
consequences to the moto gear. And,
Right.
and you and I,
Right,
in
yeah,
fact,
we
I
had
said
that
that to you,
conversation.
and you were
Yeah.
a little shocked at my response. But a good chest protector and off-road armor can melt on a slide on the road, and so you could have ended up with second or third degree burns.
Yeah.
So we all make a choice by doing the sport, and I accept the amount of gear that I wear and the consequence that may result from that. And that's how I just that's how I reason it to myself. I
Mhm.
think we all have to. And if your 5.5 works for you, great. And if your basic jacket or expensive jacket works for you, great. I'm not going to judge you. That's kind of how
Right,
I look
right.
at it.
Mhm.
Regardless, it's all the gear all the time.
Yeah, and we all do.
Mhm.
I think we all,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
all of us subscribe to that
So
philosophy.
if you were some of these crotch, like there's a new guy that moved into this neighborhood, right? And he rides a crotch rocket, and he screams up and down the main road, and I'm talking 80 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. Shorts, no shirt,
Oh,
flip flops,
geez. God.
and a helmet. So I mean, if
Yep.
you were somebody that just wore the very basics, you wouldn't be here. 100%.
No.
Bye. Right?
No,
It would have been
you
the
got what
cliche.
you paid for.
100%. So why don't we? This is getting kind of long. Like I was thinking, we're going to take like 30 minutes.
Oh, I thought
And-
no more than an hour for sure.
Yeah, and we're at 2 hours.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah,
let's wrap this up.
yeah. So why don't we get into the gear? Why don't you talk about your gear and the things that happened after it?
Yeah, I've got I think a pretty fabulous story about that. So,
Yeah, you really do.
like we were taught, we're all, all the gear all the time, we have the good stuff. I think personally think Climb is top of the line stuff, but you got to pay for it. It's really expensive. And I think somebody did, maybe Chris, the talked about how it's expensive, but
Talking to the mic.
what the heck. So anyhow, I'm wearing Climb jacket, Climb pants, and a Schubert, good quality helmet. And from what I'm hearing earlier, that I was cartwheeling down the road several times, and I walked away. And it's like, oh my God, the money, the expense of this gear is totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's like I should be if I didn't have that stuff, I'd be in the hospital still probably. But it's just absolutely astonishing how well it worked. And but I guess I'll go ahead and tell the story. So as I mentioned, I didn't have my pants anymore because they got thrown out in the ER. But I thought, I looked at my jacket and stuff, and I thought, geez, that stuff's so expensive. It's really expensive stuff. So I thought, maybe Climb has a shop that does repairs, like they could replace the elbow cup and stuff for me or whatever. And I call Climb up and I say, can you recommend a repair shop? Oh, no, we don't do that. Then she says, was there an accident report done by the police? A police report, I should say. I said, yeah. She said, oh, send it to me. So I send her the police report, and I've already been shopping on Climb's website for the jacket I was wearing is $730, and the pants that I was wearing are actually more than that because they were the Kodiak pants. But anyhow, expensive stuff. And so, send her the report. Well, what shows up on my front porch? Free shipping, brand new Carlsbad jacket,
Amazing.
no charge.
Wow.
But then she said, and talked to her again. She said, unfortunately, because you have to return the damaged stuff to them, which I did. But she said, you don't have the pants to return to me, so I can't give you new ones. But here's a 40% off code to buy some more. And it's like, Now that's customer service. That is
100%.
Absolutely.
I'll never go anywhere else now after that. But it's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, that's quite the story. When you were talking to me about that, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, and and it's a company based in Idaho. It's
Yeah.
to me it feels like a local company. I'm even more happy to support them now.
Yeah.
Right.
I won't buy anything else
Yeah.
now after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was amazing. That
Yeah.
what else do I want to talk about? Well, I guess I'll just get
Curious on your gloves. Did you make any impact? I mean, we've talked about. Let's talk about your boots, and let's talk about your gloves because we haven't talked about
this is kind of a funny thing that you mentioned the boots.
either.
I'm wearing climb gloves. I have a little purple on my thumbnail,
Okay.
and that's it. Nothing, But this trip, I have really big fat calves, and so my pants, when I'm wearing my really high boots with the big plastic bulge on the front to protect your shins and stuff, it's a pain in the butt because when you get off the bike, your pants are slid up
Mhm.
on your leg and they won't go down, and you got to fight to get them down. So this trip, I thought I'm going to wear my other boots and not they're 3 inches shorter, but the pants fit over them and they're a lot more comfortable to walk around, giant loop in and stuff. So I'm wearing those. So of course that just above the top of those shorter boots,
At 3 inches.
that's where my big road rash is.
Yeah.
That would have been covered by my other high boots.
Right.
So everything performed fabulously, you know. Um, I still am in awe and shock over all that stuff that I could do that tumbling act down the road and walk away. Just amazing.
Yeah, that's the part. When I saw the elbow of that coat, I was absolutely shocked.
I kept looking at my elbow, feel like, is it sore? Is
Yeah.
there any scratches? There's nothing.
Yeah,
It
just
was
in
like-
general, because I literally have the exact same coat as you, even the same color,
I know you guys are twinsies.
and it kind of just. I honestly had this feeling of satisfaction. Okay, I picked some good stuff
Yeah.
because
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah.
and I remember kind of sometimes you catch a little crap from friends. Oh, you're spending a lot of money on that stuff. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who cares?
There you go.
the mask Ron,
Yep.
that's what it's like now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't contest to that kind of gear, but I did recently get a early birthday gift from Papa Cakes. He bought me a set, and because of you and your cool code there, Shawn. But I got a pair of the AtAt 4.5 Adventures, those new boots, and oddly enough, it had nothing to do with the accident. But the next trip over to Madras, I lost this little like bolt out of the boot, so I got a hold of them, and I was like, "Hey, this happened," and they sent me the thing. Said, "Yeah, send it back. We'll send you a new pair."
Nice.
So it's the customer service about all this stuff. But we went last weekend to Cascade Moto to the open house, and I was like, I'm just gonna wear my old boots that night, right? Because I don't know, whatever. I don't want to ruin them anymore. I put on my old CDs, the CD Adventure boots. I put them on and went, oh hell no! I took them right off. I was like,
Right.
there's no way I'm wearing these ever again.
You feel naked, kind of,
Yeah.
or unprotected.
Unprotected.
Yeah.
It feels like I was wearing flip flops.
Yeah.
I was like,
Wow.
what do they call flip flops in Canada, Critter? Because it's not beanies. You call them
Flip
boots.
flops.
Thongs.
No,
No,
not what
flip flops
Critter
up here too.
wears.
Flip flop A. Yeah.
Notice there's no denial there.
It's just a laugh.
Well,
Seems like they're pink silk today.
well, Ian said we're running a little late, so let me just say
Yeah.
one other thing is, as far as my concussion is concerned, is it's been 3 weeks now. I've been, really suffering with dizziness and headaches, and getting a little bit better each day. The dizziness is way better, and in particular, you get a headache if you bend over to pick something, that pick something up, and you get that pressure in your head. But they're getting less and less, and so I'm making good progress. So that's the main thing.
One thing that shocked me, you talk about a little bit, was one of the recommendations because of the concussion. I had never heard some of their requirements for
Oh,
your
geez.
recovery.
Oh, for 4 to 6 weeks, no brain stimulation at all. No, you can't watch TV.
Yeah.
You can't do anything. Of course, you can't. Can't go ride bicycles and things like that. And it's like, right, doc. Yeah, no TV. I got to do
Right.
something.
Yeah.
I have been cheating a little bit on that. Don't tell anybody.
Right. Well, okay. So we are running a little late. We'll just touch on this. So the conditions of the bike, right? So this happened out, obviously, out by Crane. My both bikes were towed by Sam's, which again, stellar. Put in his yard. My insurance paid for the transfer, so they moved it from Burns and they moved it down to a place in Eugene, which unfortunately I have to go down to and sign paperwork to release the bike for my insurance so I can get paid on it. I have to do that tomorrow.
Well, let me know. Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But then, so last Thursday or Friday, you and I took off. We grabbed your trailer, Shawn,
Thursday.
and then we drove all the way back over across the state.
Yeah, 300
And
miles.
Yeah, we ended up grabbing your bike. We went back, and so I'm just gonna throw the numbers out there. I hope you don't mind this. So Papa Cakes, we were talking. He's like, he talked to Brad, and he was like, yeah, it's X amount per day. I think I'm gonna have to pay over $2,000 to get my bike out, right? Of storage fees. And I was like,
It's the tow bill.
yeah. I was just like, you've got to be kidding me.
It was over $2,000.
Yeah, and I was like,
$89 a day, and it's been about 3 weeks.
yeah, and I was just like, oh my god. So there again, the guilt and all the shit comes up, right? Because I don't know. So we get over there and we start chatting with him, and Brad says, "Look, I charge X amount of money for Ian's bike. I'm good with that price."
The insurance company paid.
Yeah. And so the insurance company already paid. Says, I'm good with that price. So he didn't charge you towing. And then he looked at my dad and goes, well, I mean, if you want to give me something, that's cool. If not, that's cool. Maybe $500 or whatever. I'm looking at the dude like, what? And so they start bouncing back and forth. And you agreed on $300.
Well, and then he said, I made money on Ian's bike. You don't need to pay anything. It's like, are you kidding me? I had like $2,000 check in my pocket, and he goes, yeah, just first he said $500. He goes, yeah, maybe 50, $100. Just maybe leave a tip for the guys, something like that. And I think there were 3 guys there or something, so I gave him $300.
Yeah.
He's an awesome guy.
Yeah. That just doesn't happen in the city. It just goes
No.
to show that there are some neat
Yeah.
people in this world still.
Right.
Yeah, all we hear about it in the city is the predatory tow companies.
Right. Yeah.
These guys were awesome.
Yeah. So we ended up towing her back and put it back in his garage that day, and kind of been looking at it. So the next, we're not sure on what's going on with anything else. Depending on what the buyback price is, I could buy the AtAt back and just have it here and do something crazy with her. Or maybe it's not worth it. I don't know. But we're looking at other bikes. I actually found and been talking to a guy about that exact bike, oddly enough. Shawn took me to the Cascade Motorsports and was like, hey, look at these. Look at these BMW GSAs right here. Look at that triple black right there. Yeah, you'd sure look good on it.
Don't do it.
Got me talking to the salesman and stuff. But upon further review, after waking up and thinking about it, like I hear everything Shawn's saying about it. I hear everything Brian's saying about it, but I think at the end of the day, I want another twin. I think that's where I'm at. I want another twin. So we're checking into that. Dad's thinking about new bike, used bike, building the bike. He doesn't know yet. We're still kind of on this page. It's still new. So, I know that it's easy to say with those just material things, but the AtAt was special,
Yeah.
The AtAt was it's so much more than just a motorcycle. The wind therapy that thing has given me, the riding, and just like comments, people just know that's the AtAt. Everybody knows, and it's just
Well, I have a super Tenere, so I'm debating. Well, maybe I don't need to replace the T7. I'll just stay because I'm toning down. I'm not doing anything hard anymore. So and the Super T works great. And I've come to realize that the kid here has borrowed the T7. He's out ripping it up.
The Super T.
Yeah, he's telling me about putting in sport mode and sliding around corners and just having fun.
We didn't do anything like that. It's all lies.
So I've come to the conclusion that I don't have that first bike anymore. So I need to get the T7 going.
right. Well, and it might have a shock issue with a couple seals because apparently they don't like to be in the air very much.
Yeah.
And so last weekend I took off. I took off on a little bit of a ride. I left super early in the morning. It was not a good morning for me. I was just like, I'm out. I got to go. So I ride, and I actually went down Road 45 all the way to the closed gate by Mimaloose. And I was like, okay. And it was a pretty good normal. It was a Shawn ride to that point. Honestly, it was a Shawn ride to that point. It was still sun still coming up, wildlife running around, a little foggy, a little rainy, whatever. And then there's like this other peak that I've never been to. So I'm like, I'm gonna go up this road. Well, about every 50 feet, they put an irrigation ditch or a erosion ditch across, and it was it was perfect.
Drained it.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm screaming up that road, and I saw the first one coming. And I was like, either I slam on my brakes and do Shawn over it, or I'm just full in. And I just stayed.
Never seen me ride.
Yeah, I guess not, because I stayed full in mode, and I was just like in the air, 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 in the air. And I got up to the top, and I was just like, okay. So I stayed up the top for a while, walked around a little bit. In fact,
Oh, that's the Cougar.
yes, I am up there leaning against the rock on the top, and I am just like, I am zoning out at this point, right? Stuff on the mind, whatever, doing my thing. And if you have ever heard, like, YouTube it right now, a cougar scream, it sounds like a woman getting murdered, is what it sounds
Yeah, I
like.
was described. It sounded like somebody ripping the head off of a rabbit.
Yeah.
Or something. I mean, it's a blood curdling sound,
and it wasn't that far away.
Yeah.
And I went from totally relaxed, and kind of my eyes just kind of closed and leaning up against this rock
around here all the time.
Yeah, to instantly
Yeah.
standing up like a freaking prairie dog, looking around. I'm like, it's time to go. So I get back, and I'm looking around, and I do this little story, and then I was like, shit, the trees. So I'm like looking up in the trees and doing all this thing. Well, I get on my bike. Okay, I got on his bike, and I go up and I turn around, and as soon as I turn around and I start heading back down the hill, he has the external lights again, the auxiliary lights. And so I'm looking down, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to turn these on. So I'm looking down at my left thumb, and I'm turning them on, and I just catch something on top. So maybe 60 yards to the top of this crest, and it's an old forest fire right through there too. And so I'm coming down, I turn that on, I see something, and I just look up there, and sure as shit, there it is. And I'm like, bye. I just took off. I was like, I'm not even screwing around with you. Like, this is your home. Laters, I'm out. So then I was like, I'm in the air, I'm in the air, I'm in the air, I'm in the air, just doing those all the way back down. And then I get riding home, and I stopped at a stoplight, and I look down at my left boot, and I'm like, what the hell I get all over my boot? And I look over at my right one. What the hell I get all over my boots? God,
it's both sides?
I'm like, what is going on here? And I get home, and I pull into the garage, and I'm like, I sit down, and I'm not even thinking, like, I already forgot about that, right? So I sit down. So Critter, oh, by the way, I got your back brace here that you left. I don't know. That's
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm on like one of the Craftsman garage chairs, I'm taking off my boots, and I just look up, and I'm like, what the hell's all over the floor? Oh no. I did it again.
So, Ron, you'll get a front suspension rebuild.
Well, guess what was delivered by Amazon today?
Yeah.
Fork oil and fork seals.
So that's another thing you have to call. Hi, Daddy. So I was riding a motorcycle today, and and it was really funny because Matt with Ladle Sports coming down here next week, and we're on a call on Instagram. And we're just talking about some things. And I go, yeah, apparently those motorcycles aren't meant to be in the air. He's like, oh, no. no. I was like, yeah, well, now I know. So, anyways, let's wrap this son of a bitch up. So, boys, I really, really appreciate everybody making the time to come out here and talk about this. I hope that we clarified some questions. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments, and we will try to answer them as best as we can. Keep an eye out on the YouTube channel here on Motorcycles and Pancakes, and new bike days are probably coming up here, and we'll make sure to get all that in. Not a new bike day for Shawn, but you know.
No,
that's
but
all
I'm
right.
excited for your new bike days. You know, sometimes when you go through
Yes.
these things, the trauma and just getting back on the horses, it's therapeutic, and well deserved.
Yeah,
And I hope
absolutely.
to be there and see you both on your new bikes.
For sure.
Chris, thanks for being there, man. You know, this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
really, it really means a lot knowing that all my friends are looking out for me and taking care of me. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
You,
just
you
glad.
too, Shawn.
I'm
You
glad.
guys are amazing.
I'm glad things turned out the way they did. I'm not glad that things happened, but I'm glad things turned out the way they did.
Yeah.
Same.
Because yeah, I'm glad we're all here to talk to each other. So
Yeah, you know, the funny, I was
thankful for that.
I was thinking about it, that we were having so much fun. Our
Oh.
ride down there and the ride we did that afternoon was so spectacular, and it was so exciting, and looking forward to doing more of it. And I was thinking about, you know, of course, then all of a sudden the rug gets jerked out from under all of that, and you're kind of you're happy that you're not, for me, that I'm not in the hospital and hurt, but there's a sadness about not being able to hang with the guys and
Yeah.
go on the rides and all
Yeah.
that we were so excited about doing.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but that, you know,
Well,
Yeah,
we've
we'll
all-
just have to we'll have to make up for it next year. For
Absolutely.
next year's
Yeah.
Giant Loop.
Well, we've all
We'll
got,
make
you
up
know,
for
I
it.
think we still have September for all four of us to get together
Yep.
up at
This is
Critter's
true.
place
Yep.
for Get Lost, Find Yourself. That'll be good. I would assume there's some redemption riding going on, and some people will be on some new bikes for that. That'll be exciting.
Absolutely. You know, for me, it's
Yep.
the people I allow in my inner circle are very few, and you know, three of the really important people inside that are here right now. You know, and I don't care what people have to say. I love you guys. You're my family. Dad, literally. But you know, the other Trader and Shawn. I mean, you guys are family. I love you guys to death. And you know, I consider you guys brothers. You know, and chosen family is very important.
Absolutely.
Just because we're not blood doesn't mean the love isn't there. So I love you guys immensely. And with that, we're just going to go ahead and end this little thing. So again, thank you for listening. Thank you guys for coming on and doing this whole shenanigan based craptastic event. I don't know what else to call it. So any last words, anybody?
just thanks to everybody that helped me in this situation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Shout out to everybody who kept their heads there, and yeah, don't forget to eat more pancakes.
Now
Don't forget to get out there and ride.
ready to do that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. Peace.